Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Facts channel. Tonight, we drift through the long corridors of curiosity, the 100 mysteries that once lived in the dark corners of the human mind, now slowly illuminated by the soft glow of understanding. For as long as we have looked upward or inward, we have been surrounded by questions. Why does the sky shine blue when the heavens stretch to infinity? What keeps the earth turning beneath our feet? And what invisible breath animates the stars? There was a time when every sound, every shadow, every spark of light was a message from the unknown. The wind whispered secrets we could not translate, and the night seemed alive with meaning we could only imagine. Yet across centuries, humanity leaned closer to the silence, learned to listen differently, and began to measure, observe, and wonder again, not with fear, but with patience. Science, at its heart, is not a collection of facts. It is the slow unveiling of mystery, a quiet partnership between the universe and the mind that seeks to understand it. Every answer began as an impossible question. Every revelation was born from confusion. When our ancestors first struck stones together, they must have watched the sparks and wondered what fire truly was. When they looked at the stars, they might have felt the same pulse that still beats in the chest of every scientist today, that soft, persistent rhythm of curiosity. Over thousands of years, we have turned that wonder into the language of discovery. Imagine the world before knowing. The ocean's tide, surging and retreating, must have felt like the breathing of some vast creature hidden beneath the waves. Lightning was divine fury, the sun, a chariot of fire, illness, a curse sent by unseen spirits. Every element of existence carried an unseen storyteller. Yet within those myths, there was always a truth waiting to be uncovered, a seed of observation wrapped in imagination. When Benjamin Franklin tied a key to a kite, when Galileo turned his telescope toward Jupiter, when Curie watched faint glows of radium in the night, they were continuing a single ancient act, the act of looking deeply at the world and refusing to turn away when it failed to make sense. Science did not take the mystery away. It made the mystery precise. The more we discovered, the more wonder remained. We learned that the sun's endless fire is not fire at all, but the fusion of atoms, millions of tons of matter transformed into light every second. We found that continents move, slowly, silently, reshaping the face of the earth as if the planet were breathing. We discovered that a snowflake's perfection arises from chaos, that water molecules dance in six-fold symmetry, guided by geometry itself. Even the color of the sky, so familiar, became a revelation once we understood that blue is the scattering of sunlight through air, a quiet conversation between light and molecules. And yet, knowledge did not harden the world. It softened it. Understanding why the sky is blue does not make it less beautiful. It makes it infinite in new ways. To know that lightning is electricity does not silence its voice. It reveals its music, its pattern, its purpose. Each explanation deepens the connection, not the distance between us and the universe. In this way, science becomes a kind of meditation, a practice of listening to reality with patience, humility, and awe. There is a stillness in the act of learning, a slowing down that mirrors sleep itself. When you watch a candle flame and wonder what makes it flicker, or when you listen to the faint hum of a refrigerator and think of electrons drifting through copper, you are entering that same slow current of curiosity that has flowed through every generation before us. The difference between not knowing and knowing is not the end of wonder, it is the beginning of a deeper one. Consider the first time humans saw their reflection in still water. The image must have felt like a spirit, something otherworldly, alive within the surface. Now we know it is light, bouncing from the world to our eyes and back again. But the knowledge does not banish the beauty it frames it. To understand reflection is to understand that the universe is full of mirrors, the sea reflecting the sky, the mind reflecting itself, and atoms reflecting the forces that bind them. Every solved mystery reveals another beneath it. To discover that lightning is electricity leads to the question, what is electricity? To understand gravity leads us to wonder about space-time. To study space-time leads us to quantum fields. To peer into quantum fields is to find uncertainty woven into the very fabric of existence. And so the journey continues, spiraling inward and outward, a dance between light and darkness, between knowing and wondering. Perhaps that is what makes science so human, its restlessness, its refusal to stop asking. Every experiment, every observation is a moment of listening. The scientist is not unlike the monk or the poet. Both search for truth in silence. The equations written in chalk on a blackboard are prayers in their own language, calling for understanding from a universe that answers not with words, but with patterns. And so, as we drift tonight through 100 mysteries that science has explained, let us remember that these are not just facts, they are acts of patience. They are the footprints of curiosity itself, pressed gently into the soft dust of time. The movement of continents, the fusion in the heart of stars, the invisible dance of germs and gravity, all are pieces of a grand unfolding, a whisper that says, look closer. Even now, there are mysteries beyond imagining. We have measured the afterglow of the Big Bang and mapped the swirls of galaxies, but we do not yet know what 95% of the universe is made of. We call it dark matter and dark energy, placeholders for the unknown. Unraveled the double helix of DNA, yet still struggled to define consciousness, the invisible theater where thoughts flicker and vanish. We have split the atom, touched the moon, and photographed the shadow of a black hole, and still the universe looks back, silent, infinite, inviting us to ask again. In this way, the story of science is also the story of us. Each question answered mirrors a question within the same search for meaning, for order, for belonging. We are creatures made of carbon and curiosity, born from stardust and silence, trying to understand what it means to exist. When we study the stars, we are studying our origins. When we trace the pattern of atoms, we are tracing our own design. So as you breathe, let your mind drift gently across the centuries of discovery. Imagine the candle-lit studies of ancient alchemists, the rustle of papers beneath Newton's hand, the hum of modern machines listening to whispers from deep space. Imagine the long chain of minds, each passing the flame of curiosity to the next. That flame burns still softly, steadily, not to destroy darkness, but to see within it. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, let your eyes grow heavy. The mysteries are waiting, patient, radiant, and kind. Science has explained so many of them, and yet each explanation glows like a candle, illuminating not only what is known, but the infinite horizon of what remains. Tonight, we will wander among them. The fusion in the sun, the blue of the sky, the motion of the continents, the whisper of atoms, the hidden pulse of time one by one. The questions that once haunted the human heart will become songs of understanding, and as we listen, perhaps we will find that mystery itself was never meant to vanish. It was meant to evolve, to become wonder that never ends. So just breathe. Let your body soften. Let the air settle around you like a blanket of quiet curiosity. The story begins, as it always does, not with an answer, but with a question whispered softly into the dark. One, the fire that never burns out. For most of human history, the sun was a riddle that refused to make sense. Each morning, it rose over the horizon, radiant and unstoppable, flooding the world with warmth and light. It burned without fuel, without smoke, without end. How could something shine for so long and never fade? To our ancestors, it must have felt like the heartbeat of the heavens, eternal, divine, unapproachable. They told stories to explain its brilliance. Some said it was a god crossing the sky in a golden chariot. Others imagined it as an eye, always watching, or a great fire tended by spirits. In these myths was awe, and within that awe was a question: what keeps the sun alive? For centuries, no answer could match its mystery. The earliest thinkers believed the sun might be made of burning coal, or some celestial metal glowing in the void. But the arithmetic was cruel. If the sun were made of anything known to burn, it would exhaust itself in only a few thousand years. Even if it were heated by the slow contraction of gravity, as scientists later proposed in the 1800s, the fire could last only a few million years at most. That number, when compared to the age of the Earth's rocks and fossils, was devastating. Life had flourished far longer than the sun's supposed lifetime. Something far deeper must have been taking place within that golden sphere. Imagine the feeling of standing under that uncertainty. The world you see depends entirely on the sun, every breath of air, every green leaf, every drop of water drawn into clouds. And yet no one understood what the sun truly was. It was a mystery not just of science, but of existence itself. We were alive because of something that seemed impossible. The turning point came quietly, born not of myth but of patience. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, physics was reshaping the human sense of reality. Atoms, once thought to be indivisible, revealed their inner structure. Tiny particles, smaller than imagination, were discovered to carry hidden energies beyond measure. A single equation, E equals mc squared, whispered something extraordinary. Mass itself could be converted into energy. Matter was not a static thing. It was frozen light, waiting for release. This idea changed everything. It meant that the sun did not have to burn like a fire of wood or coal. It could shine by transforming matter into pure energy, piece by piece, forever renewing itself. In the hearts of stars, hydrogen atoms collide under unimaginable pressure and heat, fusing together to form helium. Each fusion releases a small portion of mass as radiant energy. That light takes thousands of years to travel from the sun's core to its surface, and another 8 minutes to reach us across the emptiness of space. Every ray that warms your skin began as the faintest tremor of atomic change, deep in a heart of plasma, 100 times wider than Earth. To understand this is to glimpse something profound. The sun's fire is not a burning of fuel. It is a quiet alchemy, a transformation that turns matter into light, the most delicate transaction in the universe. The energy that streams from it every second is beyond comprehension, yet it is perfectly balanced. The sun gives off just enough to nurture the earth without consuming itself too quickly. Every dawn is an act of equilibrium. Every sunset a reminder of the vast cosmic conversation between gravity and fusion that keeps our world alive. If you could see the sun not as it appears, but as it is, you would see a sphere of plasma swirling like a living ocean. Rivers of charged particles twist through magnetic loops, rising and falling in patterns of fire. Beneath the surface lies a deep interior where the temperature climbs to 15 million degrees. There, atomic nuclei move so swiftly that they overcome their natural repulsion and merge, releasing bursts of energy that ripple outward through layers of seething gas. The sun does not burn, it breathes, expanding and contracting, pulsing with the rhythm of fusion itself. And yet, even now, its heart remains beyond our reach. We have sent spacecraft to circle it, instruments that taste its light and feel the solar wind, but the core remains unseen. We know it only through theory, experiment, and the delicate traces its light leaves in spectra. Still, This unseen heart governs everything. It drives the cycles of weather, the growth of forests, the migration of animals, even the beating of our own hearts. Every calorie of energy in our bodies was first born in the sun's interior. We are, in the simplest and most literal sense, sunlight made slow light turned into life. The story of how we came to understand this is also the story of how science learns to see. It was not one discovery, but many, spread across decades. In the 1,920 seconds and 1,930 seconds, astrophysicists like Arthur Eddington, Hans Bethe, and Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin began to piece the puzzle together. They realized that stars are mostly hydrogen, and that under immense pressure, that hydrogen can fuse into helium, releasing enormous energy in the process. Bethe's calculations showed exactly how this could power the sun for billions of years. A revelation so simple yet so grand that it changed the way we saw the universe. From that point on, the sun was no longer a divine flame. It was a living star, one among billions, all sustained by the same cosmic engine. The glow of every distant sun, every star in the night sky, was revealed to be another expression of that same fusion, repeating endlessly across the cosmos. The mystery had not been destroyed. It had expanded until it included everything. Think about what that means. The sunlight that touches a leaf today began its journey long before human life existed. It began as hydrogen atoms drifting in the early universe, formed from the same matter that once filled all of space. When those atoms found their way into a cloud that collapsed under gravity, a star was born, our sun, and those same atoms began to merge, releasing the light that would one day touch your face. In a sense, every beam of sunlight is ancient, a messenger carrying the story of creation itself. And someday, far in the future, the sun will change again. The hydrogen at its core will grow thin, fusion will shift outward, and the star will swell into a red giant, consuming Mercury and Venus, and washing the Earth in waves of dying light. But even that will not be an ending. The elements created in the sun, the carbon, oxygen, and heavier atoms forged in its later stages, will drift into space, joining clouds of dust that will one day form new stars, new planets, and perhaps new lives. The sun, even in death, will continue to shine through the matter it leaves behind. That is the quiet immortality of the cosmos. Nothing is lost. Every particle of the sun's radiance becomes part of something else, absorbed by a leaf, stored in the grain of wood, or woven into the energy of a thought. The fire that never burns out is not eternal because it lasts forever, but because it transforms forever. It moves from state to state, from form to form, changing, shining, and living in all things. So when you stand outside and feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin, pause for a moment. That warmth began in the heart of a star, born from the merging of atoms that once drifted freely in the cold of space. It traveled across 93 million miles of emptiness to find you, to touch the planet that became your home. You are feeling not just light, but history, the quiet song of physics made visible. And that, perhaps, is the greatest truth science has given us. The sun's mystery is no longer an unanswerable question, but an invitation to wonder more deeply. To know how it shines does not diminish its beauty. It connects us to it. The sun burns not to destroy, but to illuminate. Its fire is not a symbol of wrath, but of patience, a steady glow that has watched over every birth, every storm, every heartbeat that ever lived beneath it. It is the same light that shone on the first eyes that ever opened, and it will shine long after ours close. The sun's fire is the promise that change can sustain, that transformation is the deepest form of endurance. The sun does not burn out, it becomes. And as night falls and stars emerge, remember that each of them, too, carries the same secret within. Every star is a variation of the same eternal flame. Every dawn, every flicker of warmth, is the universe repeating its most gentle truth, that creation and continuation are the same act, that even in the vast silence, light finds a way to begin again. 2. The moving earth. For much of history, the ground beneath our feet was thought to be still, solid, eternal, and unmoving. The continents seemed carved into permanence, their outlines fixed like the edges of an ancient painting. Mountains appeared to stand forever. Oceans seemed endless and unmoving. Humanity built its cities, its myths, and its sense of safety upon that illusion of stillness. The idea that entire continents could move, that the Earth itself was in motion, would have sounded impossible. Yet deep below the surface, the planet was never still. It was breathing. If you could look at the Earth from the slow perspective of geological time, everything would appear to flow. Continents would drift like rafts upon molten seas. Mountains would rise and crumble. Oceans would open and close. In this grand and silent choreography, the surface of our planet is always rearranging itself, grain by grain, plate by plate. What seems immovable to human eyes is, to the Earth, as fluid as air. The story of how we came to understand this begins, as so many stories do, with wonder and ridicule. In 1912, a German meteorologist named Alfred Wegener proposed an idea so strange that most of his contemporaries dismissed it outright. He noticed that the coastlines of continents seemed to fit together. South America and Africa, for example, like pieces of a torn map. He found matching fossils on opposite sides of oceans and identical mountain ranges separated by thousands of miles. Wegener suggested that the continents had once been joined together in a single vast landmass, a supercontinent he called Pangaea, and had since drifted apart. The world was not ready for such an idea. Scientists asked, by what possible force could entire continents move? Rocks were too heavy, too stubborn, too vast. The Earth was thought to be static, its features shaped only by vertical forces. Mountains pushed upward, valleys sunk downward. The concept of horizontal movement seemed absurd. Wegener's theory was met with scorn. He died before anyone accepted it. His ideas left adrift like the very continents he described. But the Earth was patient. It continued to whisper its evidence to those who listened. In the mid-20th century, technology reached beneath the waves for the first time. Oceanographers mapped the seafloor and found something astonishing: immense ridges that ran like seams along the ocean basins. Along those ridges, new crust was forming, molten rock rising and cooling as it spread outward. In other places, deep trenches marked where old crust was sinking back into the Earth's interior. The surface of the planet was not fixed. It was being created and consumed in an endless cycle. From this revelation emerged the theory of plate tectonics, the understanding that Earth's outer shell is divided into giant slabs, or plates, which float atop the slow, convecting flow of the mantle beneath. The continents ride upon these plates, carried by the motion of molten rock deep below. When they collide, mountains rise. When they part, oceans form. Every earthquake, every volcano, every ripple of land and sea is part of this ceaseless dance. Imagine this process not as violence, but as breath. The crust of the Earth expands and contracts, exhales and inhales through the long rhythm of geologic time. Beneath our feet, the mantle moves in slow currents, carrying continents the way wind carries clouds. The Himalayas are still rising today, climbing millimeter by millimeter as India presses against Asia. The Atlantic Ocean grows wider each year as the Americas drift from Europe and Africa. To us, these movements are invisible, slower than the growth of fingernails, but given millions of years, they reshape the face of the world. There is a strange peace in this realization. We live on a world that remakes itself. Mountains we call eternal will one day wear away to sand. Oceans will close, and new seas will open. The continents themselves will gather again, forming future supercontinents we can scarcely imagine. Earth's geography, like its life, is impermanent, sculpted by time and heat and gravity. The stone beneath us is part of a vast cycle of birth, death, and renewal that has continued for billions of years. To understand that movement is to see the planet as alive. The tectonic plates are the skin of a breathing world. Beneath them, molten rock circulates, rising where it is warm, sinking where it cools, creating convection patterns that ripple across the globe. These hidden currents drive the drift of continents, feed volcanoes, and sustain the magnetic field that shields us from cosmic radiation. Without this inner motion, Earth would be cold, geologically silent, and likely lifeless, a barren rock drifting in space. The restless interior is what keeps the surface fertile, the atmosphere balanced, and the oceans stable. This deep, slow motion also connects us to the distant past. Every mountain range tells a story of collision. The Himalayas whisper of the time when the Indian subcontinent broke away from the southern landmass of Gondwana and began its long northward journey across the ocean. When it struck Asia, the crust crumpled and folded, pushing the seafloor skyward into the tallest peaks on Earth. Even now, that collision continues, imperceptible yet unstoppable. Each tremor in the region, each quake that ripples through the ground, is part of that same ancient conversation between continents. And every stone carries memory. The granite beneath your feet may once have flowed like molten rivers. The soil that nourishes your food was ground from ancient mountains, long vanished into dust. The landscape you call home is the current moment of a vast unfolding that began before life existed. The continents are not separate things, but pages of the same story drifting, merging, breaking apart, and drifting again. If we could speed up time, we would see Earth's surface move like a living tide. Continents would slide together, forming new supercontinents, before drifting apart again in slow cycles, lasting hundreds of millions of years. The pattern is rhythmic, like a heartbeat measured in eons. Scientists call it the supercontinent cycle, and it suggests that the landmasses of Earth have joined and broken apart many times, from Pangaea to Rodinia to Gondwana and beyond. Each configuration changes the flow of oceans and air, reshaping climate, evolution, and life itself. When viewed in this light, the Earth is not merely a stage for life, it is a participant. The drifting of continents has directed the course of evolution, isolating species, creating new habitats, and guiding the migrations of creatures through deep time. The slow rising and falling of land has shaped the oxygen we breathe, the currents that warm the seas, and even the rhythms of ice and fire that define our planet's past. Without plate tectonics, there would be no mountains, no fertile valleys, no cycles of carbon and oxygen to sustain us. The very conditions that allow life to thrive are written in the language of motion. And yet, for all our knowledge, there remains mystery. The engine that drives the mantle's flow is only partly understood. We know it involves heat from the planet's interior, some left over from Earth's formation, some produced by the decay of radioactive elements. But the details of how this heat translates into movement remain one of geology's great puzzles. The Earth keeps a few of its secrets, even as it reveals others. Still, to stand on a cliff and watch the horizon stretch across the sea is to feel the slow majesty of this motion. You are standing on a fragment of crust that has traveled thousands of miles across the ages. The stones beneath you may once have lain at the bottom of an ancient ocean. The breeze that touches your face carries dust from mountains that rose and fell before humanity had words. The entire planet, beneath its calm surface, is alive with quiet motion, a breathing sphere of rock and fire. When Alfred Wegener imagined a world in motion, he did not live to see the proof. Yet today, his vision shapes every map, every satellite image, every model of Earth's history. His once ridiculed idea is now the foundation of modern geology, a testament to how patience can transform disbelief into understanding. The continents move still, slowly drifting toward futures unseen, each carrying the memory of their long journeys through time. The ground beneath your feet is not still. It hums with ancient energy, vibrating with the slow heartbeat of the planet. Each step you take is part of a motion so vast it can only be seen in the patience of stone. Even as we sleep, the earth is turning, shifting, rearranging itself grain by grain. What we call solid ground is, in truth, the surface of a great wave, one that rises and falls over ages, carrying mountains, oceans, and all of life upon its back. So tonight, as you to rest, imagine the continents drifting in their endless dream, guided by invisible tides of heat and gravity. Imagine the planet itself breathing beneath you, alive and patient, whispering in the language of stone. The earth moves not with haste, but with purpose, and in its motion, we find our own slow, cyclical, and beautifully impermanent. 3. The sky's gentle color. For as long as humans have looked upward, the color of the sky has been one of the simplest and most mysterious sights in all of nature. The vast blue dome that stretches from horizon to horizon, deepening at the zenith and paling near the edge of the world, seems both infinite and intimate. It has no boundary, yet it feels like the roof of our lives. For countless generations, the question lingered quietly in the background of our thoughts. Why is the sky blue? Why not colorless, like air itself, or white like the clouds that drift through it? And why does it change at sunrise and sunset, blooming with gold, crimson, and violet, before fading again into dark? Long before science found its voice, we explained this color through poetry and faith. Ancient peoples believed the heavens were made of crystal spheres, their surfaces painted with the hues of creation. Some said the sky was the reflection of a vast cosmic ocean, its blue surface mirroring the waters below. Others imagined that it was the light of gods diffused through invisible fire. The answers were beautiful, but they were stories born from longing, an attempt to give shape to what felt eternal and unreachable. Even as centuries passed, the question remained unanswered, hidden in plain sight above every field and sea. When the earliest natural philosophers began to study light, they did so with limited tools but limitless curiosity. They noticed that sunlight could be split into colors using prisms or droplets of rain. A simple crystal held to the sun revealed a secret. White light was not pure, but made of many hues: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Rainbows, once symbols of divine promise, became the first visible evidence of light's inner diversity. But though this explained how light could become color, it did not explain why the entire sky favored blue. The answer would not come until the 19th century, when the patient work of a few curious minds transformed our understanding of both light and air. In 1859, a British physicist named Lord Rayleigh discovered that when light passes through the atmosphere, it is scattered by the tiny molecules of gas that make up the air. Each color of light has a different wavelength, a measure of how long each wave of energy is. The shorter the wavelength, the more easily it is scattered. Blue light, with its short, quick waves, is scattered in all directions far more than red or yellow. The result is a sky filled with diffused blue light, coming at us from every angle. The heavens are blue not because the air is colored, but because, sunlight dances through it in a delicate scattering that favors the shorter hues. It is a quiet, invisible performance. Every molecule in the air becomes a stage for this scattering: nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor, dust. Billions upon billions of tiny interactions happen every instant, bending and redirecting beams of light across the atmosphere. What you see when you look up is not a surface, but a process. Sunlight divided and spread thin until the whole sky becomes its canvas. The color is not fixed but alive, deepening as the air grows clear, softening with haze, turning silver with cloud. Even on the bluest day, the color you see is not the same from one heartbeat to the next, for the air is always moving and light is always in motion. At sunset, the story changes. The sun lowers toward the horizon, and its light must pass through a greater thickness of atmosphere. Along this longer path, more of the short blue wavelengths are scattered away, leaving behind the reds and oranges that travel farther. The sky near the sun glows with these warmer tones, while the dome above fades into pale green and violet. The beauty of sunset, then, is simply geometry: the angle of light, the depth of air, and the scattering of color stretched across distance. It is a miracle made of math, and yet no equation can capture its quiet perfection. If you have ever watched the sun dip into the sea, you have seen the physics of scattering become poetry. The light softens, the shadows grow long, and the world seems to breathe out. The sky transforms into a spectrum painted in layers: deep crimson at the edge, gold above, blue lingering faintly at the zenith. Each color bleeds into the next, their boundaries blurred by distance. The air becomes a prism vast enough to hold the entire human heart. And yet, even as science explained it, the sky did not lose its mystery. To understand why it is blue is not to drain it of wonder. Rather, it reveals how the simplest things are, born from immense complexity, how the vast machinery of the universe expresses itself in the gentlest ways. The sky is blue because atoms are small, because light has waves, because our eyes evolved to sense those wavelengths most vividly. Every breath you take, every glance upward, is shaped by that delicate coincidence. It is not just the atmosphere that makes the sky what it is, but also the observer. The human eye is tuned to be more sensitive to blue than violet, even though violet light is scattered more strongly. If our vision were different, the sky might appear purple or perhaps green. The world we perceive is filtered through biology, a partnership between light and life. Our species carries within its sight the echo of evolution's long dialogue with the heavens. We see the blue sky not because it is the truest color, but because it is the color that best spoke to the eyes that learned to love it. There are moments when the blue seems infinite: the high mountain, noon, the stillness after rain, the unbroken summer sky above an open plain. In such moments, the color feels like peace itself. But it is also fragile. Dust, smoke, or pollution can change it easily, scattering more of the red and muting the blue. On hazy days, the heavens pale to gray, reminding us that even the firmament depends on balance, a harmony of air, light, and clarity. The purest blue is a momentary gift. The atmosphere at its cleanest, the sunlight at its most direct. It is the color of equilibrium. If you could rise above the air, climb higher than the highest clouds, beyond the reach of scattering, the blue would fade. The sky would turn darker, until, above the thin veil of atmosphere, it would become black. The stars would shine even at midday. This is what astronauts see when they look back toward Earth: a thin halo of blue encircling the planet, glowing like a fragile shell around the world. That faint border is our atmosphere, the very thing that makes our sky blue, our lungs full, and our planet alive. The next time you look upward, remember that you are seeing sunlight filtered through air that has been circling the planet for billions of years. Every molecule in that sky has traveled endlessly, carried by winds, exhaled by trees, drifted through oceans, and returned again. The same air that paints the heavens today once filled the lungs of creatures long extinct. In that sense, the blue above is also a history, a record of breath and light, woven together. There is something profoundly gentle in the knowledge that the sky's color is born from scattering, from the way light is diffused, softened, and shared. It is not the concentrated flame of a star, but the diluted shimmer of its rays dispersed through air. The sky teaches us that beauty often arises from diffusion, from the spreading of something once brilliant until it becomes quiet and everywhere at once. The same light that could blind you in a beam becomes tender when scattered, the difference between a shout and a whisper. Even now, we cannot look at the sky and remain untouched. Its hue stirs ancient feelings, awe, serenity, longing. Poets have written of it as eternity. Scientists have measured it in wavelengths. Both are right. It is infinite and measurable, emotional and mathematical, divine and physical, all at once. In this way, the color of the sky bridges the oldest human instincts to dream and to understand. So tonight, as day fades and twilight deepens, look once more at the fading blue. Know that it is sunlight, softened by distance, scattered by air, shaped by your eyes, and fleeting as a sigh. Every shade of that sky, from pale dawn to midnight indigo, is an echo of the universe speaking in color, a reminder that even in simplicity, there is endless depth. The sky's gentle color is not merely an answer, it is an invitation. It tells us that even the most ordinary miracles, the air we breathe, the light that surrounds us, are born from harmony so intricate it takes the patience of science to see it, and the quiet of wonder to feel it. And so, we look up, again and again, knowing the answer and still amazed, because knowledge does not close the sky, it opens it. 4. The breath of lightning. For as long as humans have existed, storms have spoken with a voice we could not ignore. The sky, so calm by day, would suddenly darken. Air would thicken with tension, as if the world were holding its breath. Then a streak of light would split the heavens, followed by a sound so immense it seemed to shake the bones of the earth. Lightning and thunder, two sides of the same moment, terrified and mesmerized our ancestors. To those who lived before science, these flashes were messages from the divine, the visible anger of unseen gods. Zeus hurled bolts from Mount Olympus. Thor struck his hammer against the clouds. In every culture, the storm had its god, and the lightning had its name. And yet, even as fear filled the heart, wonder lived beside it. People stood at the edges of forests and fields, watching light tear across the sky, unable to look away. There was something both violent and beautiful about it, the sudden illumination, the brief glimpse of a world suspended in white fire. In that instant, trees, rivers, and mountains seemed etched in silver. Then darkness returned, deeper than before. It was as though the universe had blinked. For thousands of years, this mystery went unanswered. What could create fire in the sky? How could air, invisible and formless, produce such power? Early thinkers imagined friction between clouds, collisions of winds, even spirits trapped in the heavens, striking at one another in anger. They were wrong in the details, but not in spirit, for lightning truly is a kind of conversation, an exchange of energy between the earth and sky. It is not born of wrath, but of imbalance. Every thunderstorm begins as heat rising. Warm air lifts, moisture upward into the cooler heights of the atmosphere, where it condenses into towering clouds. Within these clouds, droplets freeze and melt again as they rise and fall on turbulent winds. Ice crystals collide with hailstones, separating electric charges in the process. negative charges collecting near the base, positive ones near the top. The sky becomes a battery made of vapor. When the difference in charge grows too great for the air to bear, the energy must escape. A path begins to form. Invisible at first, a channel of ionized air snaking downward from the cloud, searching for connection. When it nears the ground, streams of positive charge leap upward to meet it. In the instant they connect, a flood of electrons rushes through, heating the air to temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. That heat makes the air expand faster than sound can travel, and the result is thunder, the audible exhale of the storm. To understand it is to witness the universe, restoring balance. Lightning is the atmosphere releasing tension, returning itself to calm. In that sense, it is not destruction, but renewal, a flash of energy that resets the sky. Even now, about 8 million lightning bolts strike the earth every day, each one a whisper of equilibrium returning to the air. The storms come, rage, and pass. The sky breathes, and the cycle begins again. When Benjamin Franklin flew his famous kite in 1752, he was not courting danger for spectacle. He was listening. He suspected that lightning and the static electricity one could draw from rubbing amber or silk were the same phenomenon. His kite, lifted into a storm, carried a metal key attached to a damp string. When the key sparked, Franklin saw the truth. The heavens and our hands spoke the same language. The fire of the gods was the same as the tiny spark that leaps from fingertip to doorknob on a dry day. The discovery changed how humanity saw the sky forever. The mystery was not gone, but it had deepened. Electricity was no longer divine punishment. It was a universal force, one that flowed through clouds, wires, and living bodies alike. Once we understood lightning as electricity, the world began to reveal its invisible architecture. The air itself became alive with charge. The ground constantly interacting with the sky through subtle currents we cannot see. Even on clear days, a faint electric field connects the earth to the atmosphere, a silent circuit that wraps the globe. The lightning bolt is simply the sky, remembering its connection, the sudden spark of recognition between ground and cloud, between positive and negative, between imbalance and peace. There is beauty in the precision of it. Each bolt follows a fractal path, branching like roots or veins. No two strikes are identical. They trace the geometry of chaos, following the path of least resistance through an ever-shifting landscape of charge. Sometimes they branch sideways across the sky, illuminating the clouds from within. Sometimes they plunge to the ground, splitting trees, striking towers, or dancing across open plains. To the human eye, a bolt seems instantaneous, but in truth it flickers back and forth dozens of times, in milliseconds. A conversation repeated until the charge is gone. The light that reaches us is brief, but the energy behind it is immense. A single lightning bolt can release 1 billion joules of energy, enough to power a small town for a few seconds. Yet nature wields it effortlessly, without waste. Even in its violence, the storm obeys perfect order. The air ionizes, discharges, cools, and begins again. The cycle completes itself with an elegance we are only beginning to grasp. After the flash, the thunder follows. The sound rolls across valleys and over oceans, echoing off mountains, deepening as it travels. We count the seconds between light and sound to measure distance, but in truth, we are measuring time, the difference between seeing and hearing, between what arrives at the speed of light and what follows at the pace of air. Thunder is the memory of lightning, the echo that tells us the storm has passed. It is the sky's sigh of relief, the long exhale after tension breaks. In the wild silence after a storm, the world feels renewed. The air smells sharp and clean, tinged with ozone molecules split and reformed by lightning's passage. Raindrops glisten on leaves, distant rumbles fade like dreams. That scent of ozone, faint and electric, is the Earth's way of reminding us that even destruction can give birth to purity. Lightning helps bind nitrogen and oxygen in the atmosphere, creating compounds that feed the soil. Each bolt fertilizes the ground it strikes, making life richer in the places it touches. From chaos, creation. And so, the cycle continues, from heat to cloud, from cloud to charge, from charge to light. We fear lightning for its power, yet we depend on the processes it sustains. Without storms, the atmosphere would stagnate, the air would grow still, and the planet's electrical balance would falter. Lightning is the planet's pulse, a sign that energy is flowing, that the earth and sky are still in dialogue. When you watch a thunderstorm from a safe distance, the horizon flickering like a heartbeat, you are witnessing the planet's nervous system in motion. The flashes that leap from cloud to cloud mirror the impulses that pass between neurons in your brain. Both are electricity seeking balance. Both are conversations written in light. To see lightning is to glimpse the same force that animates thought, that drives every spark of life from cell to star. The boundary between weather and being becomes thin. The storm outside and the storm within are made of the same breath. There is something comforting in that realization. The same physics that govern lightning also shape the gentle glow of a candle flame, the pulse of a heartbeat, the flicker of a neuron. Electricity is not a violent stranger, but a constant companion. It moves through us, through the air, through the world. The storm only makes it visible for a moment, showing us what has always been true, that energy and balance are the language of existence. Next time you hear thunder, close your eyes and listen not for fear, but for rhythm. Hear how it rolls and fades, how it stretches the silence between each beat. That is the earth breathing. That is imbalance finding harmony again. The lightning may be gone, but its memory lingers in the air, a soft charge you can almost feel on your skin. The breath of lightning is the same as ours, a pulse of release, a spark of renewal, a brief reminder that even chaos has purpose. It arrives without warning, dazzles the world, and vanishes, leaving behind clean air, nourished soil, and the quiet hum of balance restored. So when the next storm comes, do not think of it as anger, but as exhalation. The sky, heavy with charge, simply remembering to breathe. And in that breath, in that flash between darkness and light, the universe reminds us of its own living heart, beating above us in silver fire. 5. The frozen symmetry. Each winter, the world slows and grows quiet. The air becomes still. The rivers pause beneath their skins of ice, and from the sky, snow begins to fall. It drifts softly, silently, like a language without sound. You watch it descend and cannot help but notice the way it moves, weightless, spiraling, alive. Each flake seems identical from a distance, and yet, when caught upon a glove or sleeve, its edges reveal an impossible geometry. 6 arms radiate from a center, delicate and precise, branching into patterns too intricate for the human hand to trace. The snowflake, so fleeting it melts upon your breath, is a cathedral made of water, and like all miracles, it hides its reason within its beauty. For centuries, no one knew how snowflakes formed their extraordinary shapes. In the days before microscopes, people believed them to be frozen stars or fragments of celestial frost that fell from heaven. To ancient poets, they were symbols of purity, each one a perfect thought descending from the divine. Others saw them as omens or messages from the gods of winter, delicate runes written on the air. But even then, in that age of myth, some must have wondered what process could carve such flawless symmetry into something so small and transient. It was not until the 17th century that a young astronomer named Johannes Kepler turned his attention from the orbits of planets to the snow falling outside his window. he noticed that every flake seemed to share the same six-fold structure, no matter its complexity. In a short essay titled "On the Six-Cornered Snowflake," Kepler speculated that their shape might come from the way small particles, what we now call molecules, arrange themselves as they freeze. He had no tools to see such things, but his intuition was profound. Geometry, he believed, was nature's handwriting. 3 centuries later, with the invention of microscopes and high-speed cameras, science began to confirm what Kepler could only imagine. The snowflake's perfection arises from the quiet mathematics of water itself. A water molecule is made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Because of the angle at which they bond, about 104.5 degrees, they form a subtle electrical polarity, one side slightly positive, the other slightly negative. When water vapor cools and condenses into ice, these polarities cause the molecules to link in hexagonal patterns, each one fitting into the next, like pieces of a crystalline puzzle. The result is symmetry not imposed by a designer, but born from the laws of physics. But the miracle deepens. No 2 snowflakes are ever exactly alike. Their patterns are shaped by the path they take through the sky, the temperature, humidity, and air currents they encounter as they fall. A single degree of change, a breath of wind, can alter the angles of growth, creating branches where there might have been plates, feathers where there might have been needles. Each flake carries within it a record of its journey, written in ice. The hexagonal symmetry remains, but the details are infinite. Every snowflake is both law and chance, order and improvisation. Imagine that, something as delicate as breath, obeying the same physical rules that govern stars. The same mathematics that shapes galaxies also sculpts the frost on your window pane. In this way, the snowflake becomes a bridge between scales, between the cosmic and the intimate. It is the universe in miniature, crystalline order, suspended in falling silence. If you hold a snowflake up to the light, it gleams for a moment before it vanishes. Its lifespan may be only seconds, yet in that moment, you are witnessing a structure more complex than any crystal we can grow in a laboratory. Scientists have spent decades studying the patterns of snow, creating entire fields of research devoted to their formation. They have learned that snowflakes grow from a single microscopic seed, a speck of dust or pollen high in the atmosphere. Around this nucleus, water vapor begins to freeze, adding layer upon layer of ice. Each branch grows outward independently, yet remains perfectly symmetrical, because the conditions surrounding the flake are uniform. What happens on one arm must happen on all. It is a harmony written into the physics of freezing. And still, despite all this knowledge, there remains something ineffable about snow. The way it falls, the way it softens the world, the way it erases sharpness and sound. When snow blankets the ground, the noise of the earth grows quiet. Air becomes muffled, as though the planet itself were wrapped in thought. The flakes on the surface reflect light in countless directions, turning night to blue and dawn to gold. Beneath that glow, you sense an ancient peace, the peace of molecules settling into stillness after their long journey through vapor and cloud. Snow is not just frozen water, it is transformation made visible. Each flake begins as invisible vapor, unseen, untouchable, until a change in temperature calls it into form. It crystallizes, becomes solid, drifts downward, melts again, and returns to the air. It is the water cycle's most fragile expression, a brief pause in an eternal motion. And because it is so temporary, it reminds us that beauty often exists only in transition. The snowflake is born to vanish, and that is what makes it pure. Even now, we continue to learn from its structure. The study of snow crystals has inspired advances in materials science, architecture, and even nanotechnology. The efficiency of its geometry, how it distributes stress, how it grows outward without collapse, has been studied by engineers designing everything from microchips to bridges. Nature, it seems, has already solved problems we are still learning to articulate. The snowflake is not only beautiful, it is efficient, optimized by evolution and physics to exist at the edge of stability. And yet, no machine can truly replicate what the sky does effortlessly every winter. The laboratory can mimic conditions of temperature and humidity, but the infinite subtleties of wind and time resist capture. The snowflake's individuality remains a mystery we can measure but not reproduce. Its symmetry is mathematical, but its artistry is atmospheric. Perhaps that is why it continues to captivate us, because it reminds us that perfection can arise from impermanence. If you could slow time enough to watch a single flake forming, you would see a story unfold in silence. Vapor gathers and cools, molecules align, branches extend, and in a few minutes, a star of ice takes shape. Then, carried by air, it drifts through clouds, absorbing more vapor, shifting form, delicate and deliberate, until at last it reaches the ground. It lands, lightly, barely disturbing the surface, then waits. Maybe it melts at once, maybe it joins others, compressing into a blanket of snow that will one day feed rivers and oceans. Either way, its life is complete. It has fulfilled the simple law of water to move, to change, to reflect the conditions around it perfectly. When you look across a field of new snow, you are seeing countless versions of that story. Each flake is unique, yet all are united in harmony. Together, they become something larger, a soft, unbroken landscape that gleams beneath the sun. In that whiteness, every detail of their individuality disappears, and yet their collective brilliance is greater than any single pattern could achieve. There is something quietly profound in that the reminder that individuality and unity can coexist, that each part can retain its beauty while contributing to something whole. So the next time you see snow falling, take a moment to watch. Let your eyes follow a single flake as it drifts through the air. Remember that it is not merely frozen water, but a moment of cosmic order expressed through simplicity. It is geometry made fragile, physics made poetic, and impermanence made perfect. The snowflake asks nothing, gives everything, and vanishes gracefully when its purpose is done. Science has explained its symmetry, measured its angles, photographed its patterns, and traced its formation from cloud to ground. But the explanation does not end the wonder. It deepens it. To know that such beauty arises from the quiet dance of molecules is to realize that the universe itself is capable of artistry, that creation is not confined to life, but written into matter. Every snowflake, every crystal, every flurry that drifts past your window carries the same message. There is order in the cold, elegance in stillness, and life in even the quietest forms. The frozen symmetry of snow is not the absence of motion, but its most delicate expression. And when it melts, when it vanishes into the air from which it came, the pattern does not die. It becomes part of the world again, ready to rise, to cool, to fall once more, infinite and fleeting, as all beautiful things are. 6. The hidden world beneath sight. There is a world beneath your fingertips that you cannot see. It coats every surface, fills every breath, and moves silently through your blood. It is older than mountains, smaller than dust, and vast beyond imagination. It is the unseen kingdom of the microscopic, the realm of bacteria, viruses, and the countless other tiny forms that make up the invisible architecture of life. To the naked eye, it does not exist, and yet, without it, nothing we know could survive. For most of human history, this hidden world went completely unnoticed. The body grew sick, crops rotted, wounds festered, and milk soured, and no one understood why. Illness seemed to appear from nowhere, a punishment from gods, or a curse carried on the wind. The air itself was feared a vessel for miasmas and unseen poisons. The idea that the culprits might be living things, smaller than sight, was unimaginable. It would take centuries of patience, of curiosity, and of heartbreak before we would finally lift the veil. The first glimpses came through glass. In the 17th century, a Dutch tradesman named Antony van Leeuwenhoek, working not in a grand laboratory but in a modest workshop, ground tiny lenses with obsessive care. His instruments were simple yet astonishingly powerful. Through them, he saw what no human had ever seen before, tiny motes of life swimming in drops of water. He called them animalcules, little animals, and described their movements with wonder, as if he were witnessing a secret revealed only to him. These were the first recorded observations of bacteria, though he did not know their name. What he had discovered was nothing less than the foundation of a new universe. And yet, for another 2 centuries, the invisible world remained a curiosity rather than a revelation. People marveled at Leeuwenhoek's discovery, but they did not grasp its meaning. It was not until the 19th century that the hidden realm began to reveal its true power. Scientists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch proved that disease was not caused by bad air or imbalance of humors, but by microorganisms-specific, living agents that could be seen, cultured, and understood. Pasteur showed that sterilizing broth could prevent decay. Koch isolated the bacteria responsible for tuberculosis, anthrax, and cholera. With these discoveries, the world shifted. The invisible became real. What had once been superstition became science. Hospitals began to wash instruments and hands. Surgeons learned to sterilize. Vaccines were developed. Antibiotics discovered. Lives that would have been lost were saved by knowledge born from the tiniest forms of life. The germ theory of disease transformed medicine, sanitation, and our understanding of ourselves. It taught us that we live not alone but surrounded, and that survival depends on balance, not conquest. Because this hidden world is not just made of enemies. For every bacterium that causes harm, there are millions that sustain life. They dwell in soil, turning dead leaves into nutrients. They live in the ocean, producing oxygen that fills the sky. They inhabit our bodies by the trillions, forming what we now call the microbiome, an entire ecosystem that lives within us. In every mouth, every gut, every patch of skin, colonies of microbes work in quiet cooperation, breaking down food, synthesizing vitamins, teaching our immune systems how to recognize friend from foe. Without them, we would not digest, not grow, not survive. We are not single beings, but symbiotic collectives, human and microbe intertwined. It is humbling to know that the cells of your own body are outnumbered by the microbes that live upon and within you. You are a walking habitat, a landscape made of flesh and bacteria, where trillions of tiny lives bloom and fade with every breath. And though we cannot feel their presence, we are shaped by them. When you eat, they eat. When you sleep, they rest. When you fall ill, they fight alongside you or against you, depending on their kind. The line between self and other blurs. We are, in the deepest sense, ecosystems, disguised as individuals. Even now, our knowledge of this microscopic world continues to expand. Under the lenses of modern microscopes, we can see the intricate designs of viruses, geometric shells of protein, so small that millions could fit on the head of a pin. We can watch bacteria divide, exchange genes, and evolve in real time. We can trace the delicate filaments of fungi that thread through soil, connecting trees into underground networks that share information and resources like veins of thought. The more we look, the more we realize that life is not built from separate pieces, but from endless interactions, woven together so tightly that one cannot exist without the other. To think of the world in this way is to see everything anew. The air you breathe is alive with spores and pollen. The ocean is a broth of microbes, each one playing a role in the balance of carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. Even the clouds carry bacteria that help form raindrops. The Earth's climate, its fertility, its very breath, depend on organisms too small to see. When we walk through a forest, we are walking through their work, the soil beneath our feet, a vast city of decomposers turning death into life. The unseen world sustains the visible one, and yet, in its vastness, there is also fragility. The microbial balance can shift, and when it does, entire ecosystems change. Antibiotics, while miraculous, can wipe out beneficial bacteria as easily as harmful ones. Climate change alters the temperature and chemistry of oceans, disrupting microbial communities that control the planet's atmosphere. We are only beginning to understand how delicate these relationships are, and how much we depend on the quiet stability of creatures we cannot see. There is something profoundly humbling in this realization that our strength as a species does not come from size or power, but from cooperation with the unseen. Every breath we take, every meal we eat, every drop of rain that falls is part of a web of microbial life, stretching back billions of years. Before there were plants, before there were animals, there were bacteria, single-celled pioneers that transformed the atmosphere, invented photosynthesis, and made the Earth habitable. In a sense, they were the architects of our existence. We are not their masters, we are their descendants. When you place your hand on a table, millions of microscopic lives are exchanged, harmless, unnoticed, eternal. When you breathe, you inhale the descendants of the first organisms that ever lived. Their presence is constant, their work invisible, their importance immeasurable. They are the quiet engineers of the world, the keepers of its cycles. If you could shrink yourself down to their scale, you would find a universe more crowded and alive than any city. Droplets of water would become oceans, dust motes, planets. The space between cells would be filled with rivers of motion, proteins twisting, molecules colliding, membranes pulsing with energy. The microscopic world is not still, but vibrant, electric, full of color and motion beyond the limits of our senses. In every cubic inch of soil, there are more living beings than humans who have ever lived, and each of them, no matter how small, has a place, a purpose, a role in the great continuity of life. To know this is to see the world differently. The invisible becomes intimate. The ordinary becomes miraculous. A grain of dust, a droplet of water, a breath of air, each is an ecosystem, each a reflection of the universe's endless creativity. Science has revealed this hidden world not to remove its mystery, but to give it voice. It tells us that life's story is not written in the grand or the vast, but in the minute and the unseen. So the next time sunlight catches dust floating in a beam of air, remember that you are witnessing something ancient and alive. Within that shimmer are worlds upon worlds, moving, dividing, thriving. The hidden kingdom beneath sight is not far away. It is here, all around you, within you, and through you. It is the quiet pulse of existence itself, the invisible breath that binds all living things together. 7. The memory of water. If you hold a glass of water to the light, it seems simple, transparent, almost nothing at all. It has no color, no scent, no shape of its own. Yet within that stillness lies one of the strangest and most essential substances in the universe. Every drop has a history older than the Earth itself. The water you drink today once drifted through clouds before there were continents, rippled across the backs of vanished seas, froze in glaciers that carved mountains, and fell as rain upon the first forests. In some form or another, it has touched everything that has ever lived. Every river is a memory. Every wave carries the past. Water is eternal because it changes. It evaporates, condenses, freezes, and flows, moving through every form but never truly disappearing. The same molecules that swirled through the veins of prehistoric fish now fill your cells. The rain that nourishes a field may one day rise again as mist over an ocean. Water is not a thing. It is a process, a continuous act of becoming. Through it, the planet breathes. It binds the sky to the sea, the clouds to the earth, and all living things to one another in a cycle without end. When we look closely at water, we discover that its apparent simplicity hides an elegant complexity. Each molecule is shaped like a tiny triangle, two light hydrogen atoms joined to one heavier oxygen atom. The angle between them, 104.5 degrees, seems arbitrary, yet from it arises nearly every miracle that water performs. Because of that bend, each molecule is slightly polarized, carrying a faint positive charge on one side and a negative on the other. This imbalance allows water molecules to cling to one another, linking through delicate hydrogen bonds that constantly break and reform, faster than the blink of an eye. In that fleeting network lies water's ability to flow, to dissolve, to give life. It is because of these bonds that water can climb upward through roots, defying gravity. It is because of them that ice floats, protecting the oceans from freezing solid. They allow water to store heat and release it slowly, tempering the planet's extremes. Without this single molecule's peculiar geometry, there would be no gentle seasons, no rivers, no clouds, and no living world to perceive them. All of life is suspended within the quiet mathematics of that bond. To the ancient, the world, water was not chemistry, but spirit, the element of emotion and transformation. It was believed to cleanse, to remember, to carry the essence of what it touched. Even now, in ways both poetic and real, it does. Scientists have discovered that water forms temporary structures around the substances it encounters, momentary echoes of contact that shape its properties. Each droplet bears the traces of its surroundings: minerals from stone, gases from air, fragments of life, microscopic and ancient. Water carries stories through its atoms, fragments of mountains, breath of forests, the salt of tears. It is memory made liquid, and yet water's memory is not static, it is alive. The ocean, for instance, holds the history of the planet's climate, written in layers of temperature and salt. Ice cores taken from Antarctica contain bubbles of air that reveal what the Earth breathed hundreds of thousands of years ago. The isotope ratios within each layer of frozen water are a record of temperature, wind, and time. By reading them, scientists can reconstruct entire epochs, hearing the Earth's heartbeat echo through frozen silence. Water remembers not in words or images, but in balance, in chemistry, in the subtle ratios that shift with the planet's breath. When you stand at the edge of the sea, you are standing before the oldest storyteller in existence. Long before there were forests or creatures with lungs, water shaped the surface of the planet, carving valleys, wearing down mountains, and gathering in deep basins where life began. The first cells floated in warm oceans billions of years ago, shielded by water from the harsh radiation of the young Sunday. It was in water that molecules first learned to organize, to replicate, to awaken. Even now, the chemistry of every living cell is a reflection of the ancient sea. Our blood, with its salt and minerals, is a diluted echo of the ocean where life was born. To be alive is to carry an ocean within you. Water not only connects life through time but also through space. A droplet that falls as rain in one place may someday drift halfway across the world. Carried by currents, evaporated by sunlight, condensed into clouds, It moves ceaselessly through the great atmospheric engine that links every corner of the planet. The mist that rises from a rainforest might one day fall upon a polar glacier. The snow that melts from mountain peaks feeds rivers that reach the sea, completing the circle. The planet's circulation is its pulse, and water is its blood. In the stillness of a lake, you can see the world reflected perfectly. Mountains inverted, clouds drifting across a second sky. Water does not merely mirror, it interprets. It blurs edges, softens shapes, and turns light into language. Artists and poets have long looked into it seeking meaning, and perhaps they were not mistaken. To watch ripples move across a pond is to witness time made visible, the pattern of cause and effect spreading outward in widening rings. The smallest touch changes everything, just as the slightest shift in temperature can summon rain or snow. Water responds to the world intimately, shaping itself to whatever holds it. It is both form and formlessness, both mirror and memory. Yet for all its beauty, water can also remind us of power. It erodes mountains, shatters stone, and carves canyons over millennia. In a flood, it moves with unstoppable force. In a drought, its absence reshapes civilizations. It has drowned cities and sustained empires. It has been worshipped and feared in equal measure because it is both gentle and absolute, yielding in touch, but invincible in time. It is the quiet persistence of water that wears away everything it meets. Scientists continue to study its mysteries, and still, it resists complete understanding. It behaves differently from almost every other substance on Earth. It expands when it freezes. It holds more heat than logic allows, and its surface tension is so high that small creatures can walk upon it as if upon glass. Even now, new discoveries about water's molecular structure emerge, hinting that we still do not fully grasp its nature. Perhaps that is fitting. Water is the most familiar thing in the world, and yet it remains unknowable, as fluid in our minds as it is in our hands. When you pour water into a glass, listen to the sound it makes. That gentle cascade is the world speaking in its oldest tongue. When rain falls on your window, those drops are travelers returning from clouds that have wandered the entire planet. Each one contains fragments of dust, salt, pollen, and life. Each one carries the breath of oceans, the sigh of mountains, the shimmer of stars that forged the hydrogen it contains. You are not merely watching the weather, you are watching the universe remembering itself. In the end, water teaches us something profound about existence. It shows us that endurance is not rigidity, but adaptability. It survives because it yields. It transforms because it moves. It dissolves barriers, connects opposites, and reflects everything it touches. It is the quiet lesson written into every river, every tear, every storm. To flow is to live. To change is to remain. So the next time you lift a glass of water, pause for a moment before you drink. What you hold is not simple. It is ancient, infinite, and intimate all at once. It has touched stars and stones, passed through creatures long vanished, and will one day flow through others not yet born. It carries the memory of everything that has ever been and everything that ever will be. It is the softest thing and the strongest. It is the shape of the world's patience and the mirror of your own. 8. The shape of the Earth's heart. Beneath our feet, deeper than any mountain, is tall, the Earth has a heart. It does not beat in the way a creature's heart does, but it moves, it breathes, and it burns. It is the hidden furnace of the world, shaping the continents, feeding volcanoes, and whispering through the tremors that ripple through stone. We live upon its surface as if it were still and silent, yet the ground beneath us is alive with motion. The planet's heart never sleeps. It turns molten rock into mountains. It stirs the oceans through the slow shifting of crust, and it keeps the magnetic field pulsing around us like an invisible shield. For much of human history, No one knew what lay beneath. The surface of the world seemed solid, impenetrable, eternal. People imagined what might dwell below: gods, spirits, rivers of fire, or the realm of the dead. To the ancients, volcanoes were mouths of the underworld, breathing smoke from the fires of creation. Earthquakes were the shudders of imprisoned giants. The ground was sacred and mysterious because it hid its truth so completely. Even now, though we have mapped its layers, drilled deep into its crust, and measured its heat, the planet's true center remains unreachable, known only through the tremors and echoes that reach us from below. If you could travel downward through the Earth, it would feel like descending through time. The outer crust, thin and brittle, is where life has made its home a fragile film compared to the immensity beneath. Below that lies the mantle, a vast ocean of rock that flows so slowly it seems solid, yet over eons, it moves like a tide. Its currents drive the drifting of continents, the rise of mountains, the deep churn of volcanic fire. The mantle is not quiet. It is the great conveyor of the planet, circulating heat from the core toward the surface. The deeper you go, the denser and hotter it becomes, until rock softens, then melts, glowing with stored energy that has been trapped since the Earth was born. At the very center lies the core, a sphere of iron and nickel as hot as the surface of the sun. It is divided into two parts: an outer layer that flows like liquid metal, and an inner one that remains solid despite the heat, crushed into stillness by the weight of the world above it. Within that core, atoms move under pressure so immense that they generate the planet's magnetic field, the invisible cocoon that shields us from cosmic radiation. This field bends the streams of charged particles from the sun, shaping the auroras that dance in polar skies. Every flicker of northern light is the signature of our planet's living heart. The Earth's heat comes from two ancient sources. Part of it is the leftover energy from its birth, the collisions of dust and rock that formed it 4.5 billion years ago, still radiating their stored warmth through the mantle. The rest comes from the slow decay of radioactive elements deep within, a quiet fire that never goes out. These two sources keep the core molten, ensuring that the great engine of the planet continues to turn. Without that internal heat, Earth would be a frozen, airless world like the Moon, its surface unchanged for eternity. The heart of the Earth is what keeps it alive. We only know this heart through its vibrations. Every earthquake sends ripples through the planet's seismic waves that travel at different speeds depending on the material they pass through. By listening to those waves, scientists have mapped the layers of the Earth the way a doctor listens to a heartbeat through a stethoscope. They can tell where the crust thickens, where magma pools, where the solid inner core begins. From those faint signals, a picture emerges. The Earth as a vast, layered sphere, dynamic and restless, driven from within. The surface of the world bears the marks of that inner movement. Volcanoes are its exhalations, places where molten rock rises through cracks and spills out into light. Mountains are the wrinkles of its shifting skin. Ocean trenches are its deep sighs. The continents themselves are the drifting rafts that ride the convecting sea of the mantle below. To live upon the Earth is to live upon a slow, unending tide. It moves so gradually that a lifetime passes without notice. Yet over ages, it reshapes the entire face of the world. There is poetry in this motion. The continents are not accidents of chance, but expressions of deep structure. The same forces that drive magma upward also pull the sea floor apart and push mountains skyward. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Alps, each one a note in the song of the Earth's slow breathing. Even when mountains crumble and rivers carve them into dust, the material returns to the mantle, is melted and raised again. Nothing is lost. Everything circulates. The heart of the Earth is not only a source of heat, it is a cycle of transformation. In a sense, we live upon the crust the way a flame dances upon the surface of a candle, fragile, fleeting, and dependent on the unseen fire beneath. The volcano that destroys a forest today will, in time, create soil rich with minerals that nourish new life. The shifting plates that cause earthquakes also renew the surface, keeping carbon and oxygen balanced across eons. Without this motion, life itself might have vanished long ago. The Earth's restlessness is not chaos. It is the mechanism of its continuity. When you stand on a rocky cliff and feel the wind rise from below, you are standing on the cooled remains of ancient lava, the solidified breath of the planet. Beneath you, miles down, molten rock is still moving, churning like a slow ocean. The same energy that lights the stars also burns quietly inside the earth, turning the deep into light and motion. Every stone you touch is a piece of that story, once liquid, now still, waiting to rise again. Even the silence of the night carries hints of this deep motion. The magnetic field, generated in the core, hums faintly across space, guiding the compasses of birds and ships. It connects every living thing to the planet's unseen rhythm. The auroras shimmer at the edges of that field like curtains of light, a visual echo of the molten iron flowing far below. In those northern lights, you can see the pulse of the earth made visible, the glow of its hidden heart meeting the breath of the sun. If we could stand at the planet's center, we would not find a still core of metal, but a realm of ceaseless vibration. The atoms there tremble, pressed so tightly together that they behave like a single body, conducting sound faster than anywhere else on Earth. The energy released by radioactive decay moves outward in waves, rising through the mantle, reaching the crust, and eventually escaping into the sky as the faint warmth of the ground beneath our feet. Every moment, that warmth is proof of life. Below, the quiet reminder that we are walking on the thin, cool skin of a living world. It is easy to think of the Earth as inert, a backdrop to the drama of life. But if you listen closely to the hum of distant tremors, to the mineral scent after rain, to the heat rising from volcanic soil, you can feel that. It is very much alive. Its heart beats not in seconds or minutes, but in epochs. Mountains are its slow inhalations, valleys its exhalations. Lava is its blood, the magnetic field its pulse. And though we may never reach its center, we are connected to it with every step we take. The next time you touch the ground, imagine the depth below the layers of stone, the rivers of fire, the metal sphere spinning in darkness. Imagine the patient rhythm that keeps continents moving and skies shimmering. The heart of the Earth is not a mystery of distance, but of time. It moves on scales beyond our senses, yet we live because of its motion. Every tremor, every eruption, every sunrise over volcanic rock is the world reminding us that its story is not over, that even in stillness, there is movement. The shape of the Earth's heart cannot be drawn, for it is not fixed. It expands and contracts, melts and reforms, ever changing, ever alive. It is a heart made not of flesh, but of stone and fire. And through its warmth, the planet endures. To feel its pulse is to remember that life itself is only an echo of deeper rhythms, that even as we dream on its surface, the world beneath us is dreaming too, vast and luminous, forever burning quietly below. 9. The thread of life. If you could hold life in your hands and unravel it like a piece of cloth, you would find it made not of fabric, but of a single unbroken thread. That thread winds through every cell of every living thing on Earth, from the smallest bacterium drifting through a droplet of rain to the largest whale moving through the deep. It is a spiral staircase, a double helix, a molecule that remembers. Its name is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. The sound of the word itself feels intricate, deliberate, almost sacred. It is the quiet code that builds all that breathes. Every heartbeat, every leaf, every shimmer of scale or wing is drawn from its patterns. Within each of our cells lies a library written in 4 letters: A, T, C, and G, the bases that pair to form the rungs of the helix. Adenine binds to thymine, cytosine to guanine. From these simple couplings, the complexity of all life unfolds. The sequence of those letters determines everything: the color of an eye, the shape of a leaf, the rhythm of a heartbeat, the curl of a fern as it wakes to light. And yet, the molecule itself is almost unimaginably small. If all the DNA in a single human body was stretched end to end, it would reach the sun and back more than once. Yet it fits, coiled and folded, inside every microscopic cell. The elegance of that compression feels like poetry infinity folded into the finite, a cosmic secret held inside the soft architecture of flesh. Before we knew what DNA was, the inheritance of traits seemed mystical. People could see that children resembled their parents, that patterns repeated across generations, but the mechanism was invisible. It wasn't until the middle of the 20th century that the spiral's secret was revealed. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick, building upon the crucial X-ray work of Rosalind Franklin, described the structure of DNA, a double helix, 2 strands entwined like lovers in an eternal embrace. That shape was more than beauty. It was the answer to the riddle of life's continuity. Each strand serves as the template for the other. When a cell divides, the 2 unwind and replicate, ensuring that the information of one generation becomes the foundation of the next. It is not merely copying, it is remembering. DNA is the memory of life itself, written in chemical script, passed down through billions of years. The molecule that encodes the pattern of your face also carries echoes of ancient creatures that lived in the sea before bones were born. To look at the double helix is to see time. It is the story of survival and adaptation, encoded not in words but in sequences. Across 4 billion years, DNA has been rewritten, edited, refined. Yet its basic language has never changed. Every species on Earth, no matter how strange or distant, uses the same 4-letter alphabet. A sunflower and a human, a whale and a microbe, all speak the same molecular tongue. That unity is perhaps the most profound discovery of all. It tells us that life is not a collection of separate miracles, but one great, continuing experiment. The thread is unbroken. Even now, science continues to read this script with growing precision. Genomics has revealed that within our own DNA lie remnants of ancient viruses, fragments of extinct species, and silent genes that once served purposes now forgotten. The human genome, 3 billion base pairs long, is not a pristine document but a palimpsest, a manuscript written, erased, and rewritten by evolution. Within it are the marks of trial and error, the echoes of adaptation, the memory of change. Every mutation is a note in life's endless song. And yet, for all its precision, DNA is not perfect. It is fragile, prone to mistakes and damage, and it is precisely this imperfection that allows evolution to occur. Errors in copying create variation, and variation creates possibility. In this way, life learns. It explores, experiments, and sometimes fails. But from failure comes novelty, and from novelty, survival. DNA is not static. It is alive with potential. It is a self-editing poem, continually rewriting itself in response to the world. The thread of life connects not just generations, but all living things. The same molecular processes that knit a butterfly's wings also guide the growth of forests. The genes that instruct the human body to form eyes, limbs, and lungs have their counterparts in creatures that share our distant ancestry. In the deep structure of DNA, we are all relatives. The oak, the whale, the lizard, the bird, each of us carries within ourselves the same fundamental syntax, rearranged but familiar. Life, in all its diversity, is a single song, sung in many keys. There is a quiet reverence in realizing this. The tree outside your window and the cells in your hand are both shaped by the same chemical alphabet. The chlorophyll that catches sunlight in a leaf and the hemoglobin that carries oxygen in your blood are born from the same principles. Slight variations on a theme first composed when the earth was young. The thread winds through all, invisible yet enduring, reminding us that we are not separate from the living world, but part of its continuous story. When scientists first decoded the human genome, they found that much of it did not seem to serve any purpose. Vast stretches of our DNA do not code for proteins or traits. They are silent, repetitive, seemingly empty. Yet even these regions have meaning. They regulate, stabilize, and evolve. Some are remnants of ancient infections, viruses that entered our ancestors' cells and became part of us. Others are like the spaces between notes in music, necessary, silences that give rhythm to the whole. The genome, like a symphony, is as much about what is not played as what is. In recent years, the study of epigenetics has revealed another layer of complexity, a system that controls which genes are expressed and when, influenced by environment, experience, even emotion. What you eat, how you live, what you endure all leave subtle marks upon your DNA, turning genes on or off without altering their sequence. These changes can sometimes be passed to future generations, as if life remembers not just through chemistry, but through experience. The thread of life, then, is not only a record of evolution, but of existence, of how living things respond to the world and carry those responses forward. To understand this is to feel both awe and humility. The DNA inside your cells is billions of years old, shaped by the survival of countless ancestors, human and otherwise. It is older than language, older than trees, older than the moon's current orbit. Each heartbeat you feel is powered by instructions written before time had a name. The thread runs backward through you, through your parents, through all who came before, until it disappears into the ocean of origins where the first cell divided and life began. And yet, even now, the thread continues forward. Each time a child is born, each time a seed sprouts, each time a creature takes its first breath, DNA unwinds and writes again. The sequence is not finished, it is being composed. We are participants in an ongoing symphony, inheritors of an ancient melody and authors of its next verse. If you could listen to it, the thread of life would not sound like words or music, but like rhythm, the steady pulse of continuity, the gentle hum of existence passing itself onward. It is the same rhythm that moves the tides, the same pattern that flickers in stars. Life is not separate from the universe. It is the universe remembering itself through pattern and persistence. So tonight, as you breathe and feel your pulse beneath your skin, remember that within you, billions of cells are reading from the same text, translating the same ancient code. You are not a single being, but a collection of harmonies, all following the same invisible thread. It stretches backward into the deep past and forward into the unknown, connecting all who have ever lived and all who ever will. The thread of life is unbroken, delicate as light, strong as time, endlessly weaving itself through the fabric of existence. 10. The light that refuses to rest. Light has no weight, and yet it carries the universe. It has no substance, yet it shapes everything that exists. It is both particle and wave, energy and rhythm, presence and motion. When you open your eyes, it is light that writes the world upon your mind, tracing outlines, sculpting shadows, igniting color into meaning. Every moment of vision, every heartbeat of warmth, every flicker of life is born from light. It travels across impossible distances and still finds its way into the smallest corners of existence. Even now, it is streaming toward you from stars that died before humanity began, ancient messages that never stopped moving. For most of history, light was understood only by its gift, illumination. It revealed, it guided, it comforted. It marked the difference between day and night, safety and uncertainty, knowledge and mystery. Ancient peoples worshipped it as a god, burned fires to honor its return each dawn, and told stories to explain its movement across the sky. To them, the sun was a living heart, and the stars were its scattered fragments. And in a way, they were right. For light is not just a thing emitted, it is a thread connecting all things. Yet the more we learned, the more light began to reveal its strangeness. Isaac Newton showed that white light, seemingly pure, could be split into a spectrum, the colors hidden within. That simple act of passing sunlight through a prism transformed our understanding of sight and substance. It showed that light could be measured, bent, and recombined, that it obeyed laws, yet defied simplicity. Still, even Newton could not have imagined how deep that mystery would go. In the centuries that followed, physicists began to notice light's duality, its paradox. Sometimes it behaved like a wave, spreading and interfering, curling around obstacles. At other times, it acted like a stream of particles, tiny packets of energy called photons, capable of striking metal and releasing electrons. This contradiction did not fit into any single picture. How could something be both continuous and discrete, both wave and matter? And yet experiments confirmed it. Again and again, light was both. It existed in two states at once, a whisper between forms, refusing to rest in definition. In the early 20th century, Albert Einstein took this paradox and turned it into understanding. He showed that light's energy depends not on its brightness, but on its frequency, that the universe itself is quantized, built in steps rather than a smooth gradient. This realization laid the foundation for quantum mechanics, the strange science that governs everything too small for our senses to grasp. Light became the messenger of that world, revealing that the very fabric of existence hums with uncertainty and possibility. To think of light this way is to see it as the heartbeat of reality. Every photon is a pulse, moving through space at a constant speed, 299,792 kilometers per second. It is the one constant that anchors the cosmos. No matter where you are, no matter how you move, light's velocity remains the same. Time and space bend around it, but it does not change. In Einstein's theory of relativity, light defines the limit of the possible, the horizon beyond which we cannot go. Nothing moves faster, nothing escapes it. And so, the universe shapes itself to its rhythm. When we look up at the stars, we are looking into time. The light we see tonight left its source years, centuries, or millennia ago. The nearest star's glow began its journey over 4 years ago. The faint smudge of the Andromeda galaxy carries light that has been traveling for more than 2 million years. To look into the night sky is to witness the past made visible, a memory made of photons that never stopped moving. Even the light of our own sun takes 8 minutes to reach Earth. Every sunrise is the memory of a moment that has already passed. And yet, light does not fade. Even when absorbed, it transforms. It becomes warmth in your skin, energy in a leaf, motion in an electron, the green of the forest, the shimmer of the ocean, the flame of a candle, all are variations of light's eternal conversation with matter. In photosynthesis, photons strike chlorophyll, lifting electrons into higher states and driving the chemical reactions that create sugar and oxygen. Every breath we take, every bite of food we eat, is powered by sunlight transformed into life. Light, in this sense, is not just illumination, it is creation. It builds the bridge between the inanimate and the living. But light is also the measure of the cosmos itself. Astronomers use its behavior to read the universe's story, how galaxies move, how stars are born, how space itself expands. The color of a star reveals its temperature, its age, its composition. The faint afterglow of the Big Bang, known as the cosmic microwave background, is the oldest light of all, a whisper from when the universe was young, still cooling from its birth. It fills every corner of existence, a soft radiation that carries the echo of beginnings. We live inside that light. It moves through us, through walls, through time. There is another kind of light too, one that does not come from the sun or stars, but from within us. The bioluminescence of deep-sea creatures, the faint spark that passes between neurons, the glow of fireflies in the paca. Dark, all are reminders that light is not confined to the heavens. It arises wherever energy meets life. Even in our own bodies, photons are emitted during cellular reactions, faint and constant, invisible but real. The body glows, just not brightly enough to see. We are, quite literally, beings of light, shaped by it, sustained by it, and quietly radiating it back into the world. There is something eternal about its motion. A photon, once created, travels forever unless absorbed. It knows no time, no aging, no rest. To the photon, its journey from a distant galaxy to your eye happens in an instant, though billions of years have passed in our measure. Light does not experience time, it simply is. In that way, it may be the purest form of existence, movement without decay, change without loss. It embodies the universe's desire to continue, to spread, to illuminate. And yet, for all its vastness, light can also be tender, the way it filters through leaves in the morning, the way it softens the face of someone you love, the way it fades at dusk. These are the gentle gestures of the same cosmic force that births galaxies. It is infinite in scale, but intimate in touch. It reaches from the beginning of time to the curve of a cheek, from the fire of a star to the reflection in an eye. Science explains its nature in equations and constants, but light's meaning lies beyond explanation. It is the medium through which the universe sees itself. Without it, there would be no sight, no warmth, no color, no awareness. It reveals not only what is outside, but what is within. To walk in sunlight, to see the moon glow, to light a single candle in the dark, these are acts of connection with something ancient and universal. So tonight, as you sit beneath the sky, think of the light that surrounds you. The glow of distant stars is older than humanity, older than the mountains beneath your feet. It has crossed the void to reach you, bringing with it the story of its origin. Every photon that touches your skin carries a message written in the first language of creation, the language of energy becoming matter, of silence becoming color. Light refuses to rest. It moves endlessly, transforming but never ending, linking the farthest galaxies to the smallest atom. It is the pulse of the cosmos, the whisper between the infinite and the intimate. And in its journey through time, through space, through us, it reminds us that everything that lives glows, everything that exists shines. 11. The Dance of Planets. When we look up at the night sky, the stars appear fixed, eternal, unmoving. Yet among them, there are wanderers, tiny points of light that shift from night to night, tracing patient paths across the heavens. To the ancient world, these moving lights were mysteries unlike any others. The Greeks called them planetes, meaning wanderers. They were thought to be divine beings, each one carrying its own will, its own rhythm, its own song. Mars, glowed red like fire. Venus shimmered with impossible brightness. Jupiter moved with the steady confidence of a king. Long before telescopes, humanity watched these wanderers in awe, charting their journeys, measuring their patterns, sensing in their motions something sacred. The sky seemed alive. Each wandering star rose and fell, looped and reversed its path, sometimes appearing to move backward, an illusion that would puzzle thinkers for centuries. Early astronomers built vast systems to explain these motions. In ancient Greece, Ptolemy imagined the planets mounted on crystalline spheres, revolving in perfect harmony around the Earth. His model was beautiful, intricate, and wrong, but it served as a map for the heavens for nearly 1,500 years. People believed the universe revolved around us, that we were the still center of a cosmic dance. Then, in the 16th century, a quiet revolution began. A Polish mathematician named Nicolaus Copernicus proposed that it was not the heavens that moved around us, but that we who moved among them. The sun, he suggested, was the true center, and the Earth, one of several planets, circling it in elegant order. It was a theory that seemed absurd to many. How could the ground beneath us be in motion? We felt no wind, no tremor, no sense of flight. Yet, in time, evidence gathered. The wanderers' paths made sense only in this new arrangement. The dance of planets was no longer chaotic, but beautifully choreographed. When Galileo Galilei lifted his small telescope toward the sky, he found proof. He saw moons circling Jupiter, phases on Venus, and mountains on our own moon. The universe had layers, depth, and motion beyond imagining. The Earth was not the stage of creation, it was a dancer among many. And so, slowly, we were not the center, but a part of the pattern, spinning quietly through the music of gravity. Gravity, that invisible thread that binds all motion. Isaac Newton, watching an apple fall, realized that the same force that pulled fruit to the ground also held the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth around the Sunday. In one stroke of understanding, he connected the heavens and the world. The universe was no longer divided between the celestial and the earthly. Both obeyed the same laws. The dance of planets became the expression of a single, universal rhythm. Each planet, each moon, each comet traced its steps according to gravity's gentle pull and the inertia of its own motion. It is a dance of balance. The planets fall endlessly toward the sun but never reach it. Their forward motion keeps them in orbit, forever circling, forever falling. The result is grace motion without collision, tension without chaos. Mercury races close to the fire, completing its orbit in mere weeks. Venus glides more slowly, wrapped in clouds that shine like marble. Earth moves in its perfect ellipse, tilted just enough to bring the rhythm of seasons. Mars, ruddy and distant, drifts beyond, tracing its patient path. Farther still, the giant planets spin with quiet majesty. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, each one a world unto itself, each holding moons that follow their own smaller orbits, in a harmony within harmony. If you could step back far enough, you would see the entire solar system as a kind of cosmic waltz. The planets spiral, not in perfect circles, but in ellipses, each slightly askew, each shaped by the gravity of the others. Their paths never repeat exactly. Over millions of years, they shift and sway, tugging at one another with invisible strings. Yet the pattern endures, stable enough to nurture life, intricate enough to inspire wonder. It is a motion so vast and slow that we, who live our lives in the space of a few dozen revolutions, can only imagine it through the patience of thought. There is a quiet poetry to their arrangement. The inner planets, small, rocky, dense, spin close to the sun, where heat and gravity forged them from heavier elements. Beyond the frost line, where the early solar wind carried lighter gases, the giants formed immense, gaseous, adorned with rings and storms that have raged for centuries. Between them drifts the asteroid belt, a scatter of fragments that never coalesced, remnants of creation frozen in their incomplete dance. Every object, from comet to planet, is a memory of the same beginning, the cloud of dust and fire that once circled a newborn star and slowly condensed into order. That birth, too, was a kind of choreography. About 4.5 billion years ago, a vast cloud of gas and dust collapsed under its own gravity. As it spun faster, it flattened into a disk. At the center, the sun ignited, and from the surrounding material, planets began to gather. Collisions shaped them, time refined them. The solar system was not designed but composed, each world finding its place through the quiet negotiation of forces. Even now, that formation continues. Comets fall inward from the edges. Moons shift their orbits. The dance never ends. It only changes tempo. Our own planet moves through this dance at 93 million miles from the sun, completing its orbit once every year. We do not feel its motion, yet it defines our lives. The tilt of its axis brings spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The shape of its path determines the length of our days. The moon's gentle tug steadies its spin and shapes the tides that breathe through our oceans. Every wave that rises, every season that turns, is a reflection of the same cosmic rhythm that holds us in orbit. Even now, we continue to explore this grand choreography. Our spacecraft have sailed beyond the orbits of the outer planets, sending back images of their swirling storms and icy moons. Voyager, launched more than 40 years ago, has now left the solar system entirely, carrying with it the faint echo of human thought engraved on a golden record. It drifts outward into interstellar space, still touched by sunlight that will fade but never die. The dance has expanded, and we are no longer mere observers, but participants, reaching outward with curiosity as our constant companion. And yet, for all its precision and predictability, the solar system is not mechanical. It is alive, with subtle variation. Gravity's pull is constant, but the interactions of so many bodies create rhythms within rhythms, harmonies and dissonances that play out over millions of years. The orbits resonate with one another, Jupiter's gravity shaping the path of asteroids, Neptune's motion guiding Pluto's eccentric circle. It is a music too slow for human ears, but the mathematics of it sings a celestial symphony conducted by time itself. If you stand beneath a clear night sky and watch the slow rise of a planet, remember that you are watching not chaos, but choreography, a movement older than life, older than oceans, older than Earth itself. The light you see is not the planet's own, but reflected sunlight, bouncing back across space to touch your eyes. It has traveled for minutes, hours, perhaps days to reach you, carrying with it the color and texture of another world. In that moment, you are connected not only to your own planet, but to an entire system of worlds, each moving, each shining, each bound to the same invisible music. The dance of planets is the universe remembering its balance. It is the shape of gravity made visible, the pattern that underlies the endless unfolding of space. From the smallest grain of dust to the largest orbiting moon, everything moves according to the same law: fall and motion, attraction and release. There is no conductor, no center beyond the warmth of the sun, and yet the dance continues, graceful and infinite. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine yourself suspended among them, the Earth turning slowly beneath you, Venus glowing at dusk, Jupiter's storms spinning endlessly in their own vast time. You are part of that motion, part of that rhythm. The same gravity that holds the planets keeps you on the ground. The same sunlight that warms them warms you. The dance does not end at the edge of space. It continues within you, in the blood that flows, in the breath that rises and falls. The planets do not wander alone. They move together, bound by light and gravity, by memory and motion. They trace the same endless steps, again and again, yet never precisely the same. And somewhere in their turning, amid all that distance and silence, our small world spins luminous, fragile, alive, one dancer among many, moving in perfect time. 12. The mind within, matter within. Every thought you've ever had, every dream you've wandered through, every flash of memory or moment of wonder, there is a quiet fire at work. It burns without flame, it hums without sound, and it lives inside the fragile folds of your brain. The human mind, that shimmering space between matter and mystery, is one of the strangest creations the universe has ever shaped. From a landscape of cells and chemistry, consciousness emerges, luminous and inexplicable. Matter has learned to think. The universe, through you, has opened its eyes and begun to observe itself. It is a humbling idea that thought itself is born of atoms. The same carbon and oxygen that form stones and stars are arranged within you into networks capable of curiosity, love, and fear. Each neuron is a living spark, a thread in an unimaginable web. There are about 86 billion of them in the human brain, each connected to thousands of others. Every heartbeat, these neurons communicate through electrical impulses, tiny flashes of voltage crossing the dark between their membranes. The result is motion, perception, memory, self. Every sensation, from the color of the sky to the scent of rain, is carried through this intricate circuitry, a signal transformed into experience. The brain itself is a landscape of electricity and chemistry, flowing like weather. Its architecture is both precise and unpredictable, shaped by genetics and refined by experience. In the space between neurons, the synapses' chemicals, called neurotransmitters, leap across infinitesimal gaps, carrying messages from one cell to another. Each spark is fleeting, measured in milliseconds, yet billions occur each second, forming patterns that rise and fall like tides. Out of this motion comes thought, as if the dance of electrons had learned to speak. When scientists first studied the brain, they saw it only as a machine, a biological engine processing information. But as the tools grew more refined, a deeper truth emerged. The brain is not static. It changes constantly. Every new experience reshapes it, strengthens some pathways, erases others. This process, called plasticity, means that your mind is never the same from one moment to the next. With every memory, every perception, every dream, the structure of your brain subtly transforms. It is a living pattern, rewriting itself endlessly, both fragile and resilient. It begins long before birth, in the quiet dark of the womb. Neurons grow and connect, reaching out like roots searching for light. By the time you are born, billions of these connections have formed, ready to receive the world. And from the moment your eyes first open, the brain begins to weave, meaning stitching together sensations into the fabric of awareness. The gentle pressure of a parent's hand, the warmth of sunlight through skin, the first rhythm of breath, all of it imprints itself in electrical code. From chaos, consciousness begins to coalesce. But what is consciousness? Science can describe the mechanisms, the electrical patterns, the chemical messengers, the regions that light up during thought or emotion. Yet the experience itself, the vividness of being, remains elusive. How does a collection of atoms create awareness? How does matter produce meaning? No formula can yet answer. The mind, in all its complexity, seems to exist on the edge between the measurable and the mystical. It is both product and observer, both engine and echo. Perhaps the mind is the universe's most intimate experiment, a way for matter to look inward. In the swirl of atoms that make up the brain, the cosmos has found a mirror. The same laws of physics that govern stars also govern synapses. Energy moves, transforms, and organizes itself into patterns. In the depths of the human brain, those patterns have become self-reflective. When you think, the universe is thinking about itself. When you dream, it imagines. When you remember, it gathers its own history back into focus. Even in stillness, the mind is never silent. Inside your skull, electrical waves ripple and pulse, flowing through networks like wind across grass. These waves synchronize, separate, and merge, creating rhythms we call brain states: beta for alertness, alpha for calm, theta for drowsiness, delta for sleep. Each is a mode of being, a different arrangement of awareness. Even in dreams, when the body lies still, the brain is alive with movement, stitching together fragments of memory into stories that feel real. The mind refuses to rest. It continues its work of weaving meaning from matter. If you could see it, the brain would look like a glowing forest, each neuron a tree, its branches reaching toward the light of others. Sparks leap between them like fireflies, illuminating the night of thought. In this forest, paths form and fade. Some are well-trodden, carrying the habits of daily life. Others are faint, used only when imagination or emotion takes us somewhere new. Every memory is a clearing in this forest, a place the mind can return to. Every idea is a flicker of light moving through the branches, seeking connection. And yet, for all its complexity, the mind is delicate. A small imbalance in chemistry can shift perception. A moment of trauma can carve scars that last a lifetime. The same plasticity that allows us to learn also makes us vulnerable. But within that fragility lies resilience. The brain can heal itself, reroute its circuits, and adapt. It is a landscape that can regrow after storm, like a forest finding its way back to light after fire. Thought itself is energy minute, electrical currents flowing through organic matter. In that sense, thinking is not confined to the mind. It is an act of physics, a phenomenon of the universe. The same energy that fuels stars moves through you in subtler form. Every thought is a rearrangement of electrons, every feeling a small fluctuation of fields. The boundaries between matter and mind blur, until you begin to see that perhaps there is no division, only different expressions of the same underlying unity. In moments of reflection or meditation, when the mind grows still, something remarkable happens. The patterns of electrical activity synchronize across the brain. Regions that usually work separately begin to hum together, like instruments tuning to the same note. The result is peace, a sense of wholeness that feels both deeply personal and universally shared. It is as if the mind, for a brief moment, remembers its origin, remembers that it is not separate from the world, but a continuation of it. We often think of the brain as the seat of the self, but perhaps the self is not contained there. Perhaps the self is the field of relationships between brain, body, and world, an endless loop of perception and response. The mind does not end at the skull. It extends outward, shaped by what it sees, hears, touches, and loves. When you look at a tree, your mind meets it halfway, interpreting light and shadow, color and form, transforming them into understanding. In this sense, thought is not an internal monologue, but a dialogue between you and the universe. Consider that every human mind is unique, yet built from the same biological design. Every language, every song, every work of art, every moment of compassion or cruelty all arise from the same neural architecture, shaped by experience. Within a few pounds of gray matter lies every civilization, every dream, every question ever asked. The mind is both individual and collective, a tapestry woven from countless threads of thought across time. And when the brain grows quiet, when life ends, the energy it held is not lost. The atoms remain, the fields persist, the heat of the body returns to the air. The patterns dissolve, but the substance continues. The mind is not destroyed, it is transformed, returned to the same flow that once gave it form. In that way, the universe reclaims its own thought, ready to dream again through other minds, other lives. So tonight, as you rest, consider the vastness inside your own head. Within those fragile neurons, storms of energy rise and fade, memories flicker like distant stars, and consciousness drifts like light through fog. You are both observer and observed, the dream and the dreamer, the mind within matter. And as your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts begin to blur, remember, the fire within you is not separate from the fire of the stars. It is the same light, slowed and softened into awareness, the cosmos pausing for a moment to know itself through you. 13. The invisible forces of nature. If you could strip away everything, you can see the trees, the air, the oceans, even the atoms themselves. Something would still remain. Not emptiness, not silence, but a fabric of invisible forces holding everything together. These unseen powers are the true architecture of the universe. They shape the fall of an apple and the orbit of galaxies. They draw the tides to the shore, keep the stars burning, and bind the smallest particles into the matter that becomes our world. They are the quiet laws that govern reality, the whispers of order beneath the noise of existence. For much of human history, these forces were felt, but not understood. People saw the effects, stones falling, magnets attracting, lightning striking, yet the causes were hidden. The wind seemed to move without source, gravity pulled without touch, and the sky flashed with energy no hand could grasp. The world appeared enchanted, alive with unseen spirits, and in a way, that sense was not wrong. For though science has given names to these powers, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, they remain as mysterious as they are measurable. We can describe them, calculate them, even harness them, but their essence still eludes language. The most familiar of these is gravity, the oldest and most patient of the four. It is the attraction between masses, the pull that binds everything with substance. It draws the Earth toward the sun and holds the moon in orbit. It gathers dust into planets and stars, and gathers stars into galaxies. Without it, there would be no shape to the cosmos, no time as we know it, for gravity even bends the fabric of space itself. Isaac Newton first gave it form through mathematics, describing it as a force acting at a distance, a pull between all objects with mass. His equations could predict the paths of planets and the fall of apples alike. For centuries, his vision defined our understanding of the universe, a clockwork of motion governed by invisible threads. Yet Newton himself was uneasy. How could one body reach across the void and tug on another? How could action occur through emptiness? Even he called it a mystery. It would take Albert Einstein, centuries later, to deepen the picture. In his general theory of relativity, gravity was no longer a force, but a consequence of geometry. Mass bends space and time, and objects follow the curves it creates. The Earth orbits the Sun not because it is pulled, but because it moves along the straightest possible path in a warped space-time. A planet is not held but guided, like a dancer, moving along the folds of a vast, invisible fabric. Every step you take, every object that falls, every tide that rises, is the result of this quiet curvature. And yet, even as we understand it, gravity remains the weakest of the four forces, unimaginably weaker than the others, yet infinitely patient. Over cosmic distances, its persistence wins. It shapes the largest structures in the universe, while the other forces rule the microscopic. It is the sculptor of galaxies, the architect of time's flow, and the keeper of cosmic harmony. Gravity binds, not through strength, but through endurance. The second force, electromagnetism, is more immediate, the force of attraction and repulsion between charged particles. It governs the light that reaches your eyes, the warmth of fire, the pulse of every heartbeat. It is electricity and magnetism woven into one. The same force that moves a compass needle also carries radio waves across the air and keeps electrons spinning around atomic nuclei. When light travels through space, it is electromagnetism in motion, oscillating fields of energy, intertwined and self-sustaining. We live surrounded by this force, immersed in its subtle presence. The signals that flow through your phone, the light that flickers on your screen, the rhythm of neurons in your brain, all are dances of electromagnetism. It is both delicate and infinite, the messenger of the universe. Even the color of the sky, the way light scatters through the atmosphere, is its doing. The magnetic field of the Earth, born from molten metal deep below, shields us from the charged particles of the solar wind, guiding the auroras that ripple across polar nights. Every glow, every spark, every shimmer of light is a trace of its invisible hand. The last two forces, the strong and the weak nuclear, dwell in the hidden heart of atoms. They are the smallest and most powerful of all. The strong force binds protons and neutrons within the atomic nucleus, holding together what electromagnetism would otherwise tear apart. Without it, atoms would crumble, and matter would dissolve into a mist of particles. This force acts only across the tiniest distances, yet it is 1,000 trillion times stronger than gravity. It is the glue of creation, the fire that fuels the stars. The weak force, by contrast, governs change, the transformations that occur in radioactive decay and nuclear reactions. It is responsible for the slow transmutation of elements, for the conversion of particles within the sun that releases the energy we know as sunlight. Without the weak force, the stars would not shine, and the universe would remain cold and dark. It is the force of transformation, of decay and renewal, ensuring that matter never remains static but continues to evolve. These four forces together compose everything. Gravity shapes the large, electromagnetism the middle, the nuclear forces the small. Between them lies the entire range of existence, from galaxies to atoms to the sparks of thought. They are not separate in essence, they are the facets of a single harmony. Physicists dream of unifying them, of finding the one equation that binds all motion into one truth, a theory of everything. And though the search continues, perhaps the unity already exists, not only in mathematics, but in experience. For the same laws that turn atoms into stars also turn stars into life. The universe is coherent. Every whisper of energy echoes in every corner of space. When we stand beneath the night sky, we are surrounded by these invisible forces. Gravity holds us to the ground while drawing the planets along their orbits. Electromagnetic waves from ancient stars travel across billions of years to touch our eyes. Deep within the atoms of our bodies, the nuclear forces hum, keeping us whole. Every heartbeat, every photon, every tremor of the world is an expression of those same four interactions, playing endlessly in different keys. If you could see them, the world would not appear empty. Space would shimmer with lines of attraction and repulsion, fields twisting and merging in endless motion. You would see the Earth encased in magnetic flux, the sun wrapped in plasma storms, and the galaxies bound in delicate filaments of gravity. The void would not be void at all, but alive with invisible architecture, a cathedral built of fields, light, and time. The forces of nature are not distant abstractions. They are intimacy, made cosmic. Gravity is the touch of everything upon everything. Electromagnetism is the conversation of light. The strong and weak forces are the whispers within atoms that keep them whole and alive. Through them, matter holds its shape, energy flows, and existence continues. They are the unseen breath of the universe, forever moving, forever binding, forever shaping. Even in your quietest moments, they are present. The gravity that grounds you is the same gravity that holds the stars in their spirals. The electrical signals in your mind echo the same patterns as the auroras above the poles. The atoms in your blood are fused from the hearts of long-dead stars, held together by the strong force that first ignited those suns. You are not separate from these powers, you are their consequence. You are gravity walking, electromagnetism thinking, nuclear energy remembering. So as you breathe tonight, remember that everything you are and everything you touch is suspended in a web of invisible forces, gentle, vast, eternal. They are the silent rhythm of existence, the framework upon which time and space unfold. And though we cannot see them, we feel their presence in every motion, every warmth, every breath. They are the universe's way of holding itself together. And through them, you are held too quietly, constantly, by the forces that shape all that is. 14. The endless drift of time. Time is the river that carries us, though we can neither see its surface nor touch its flow. We move within it, helpless and constant, like particles caught in a current that has no beginning and no end. Everything we know, growth, decay, memory, motion, is woven through its passage. The universe itself is not merely set within time, it is born of it. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every breath is a reminder that we are passengers upon that silent, invisible stream. And yet, what is time? We can measure it, divide it into seconds and centuries, mark it with clocks and calendars, but we cannot hold it. It passes through us as wind passes through trees, unseen but deeply felt. The ticking of a watch or the swing of a pendulum does not create time, only translates it. Even in stillness, even in the spaces between thoughts, it continues. Time is the background hum of existence, the subtle pulse that gives meaning to change. In the beginning, if such a word can describe a moment before all moments, time itself was born alongside space. When the universe first expanded, from that incomprehensible seed we call the Big Bang, both matter and time began together. Before that, there was no before, because there was no time to contain it. From that instant, the cosmos has been unfolding, cooling, and aging. Galaxies spun into being, stars ignited, planets formed, and somewhere, consciousness arose to notice it all, to wonder at the rhythm that had always been there. Einstein taught us that time is not an independent river flowing evenly through the universe, but a part of the fabric of space itself, elastic, curved, and inseparable. Where gravity is strong, time slows. Near a black hole, it nearly stops. In the vast emptiness between galaxies, it rushes forward, unbound. Every clock in the universe ticks at its own pace, shaped by where it is and how it moves. There is no universal now. The present is different everywhere, stretched and folded by the shape of space. Time, then, is not absolute, but local, an intimate companion to every object and observer. This truth is both strange and beautiful. It means that even as we share the same cosmos, we do not share the same moment. The tick of your heart and the pulse of a distant star are connected, yet separated by gravity and distance. The universe, in its vastness, experiences time as a tapestry of countless rhythms, all interwoven but never perfectly aligned. It is a cosmic symphony where every galaxy plays in its own tempo, and yet somehow the music remains coherent. For us, time feels linear, a line drawn from past to future, carrying us in one direction only. We remember what has happened but cannot see what will. Yet in physics, time is not so obedient. The equations that govern motion work just as well backward as forward. They do not prefer one direction. The arrow of time, the reason we experience it as flowing, arises not from the laws of nature but from entropy, the tendency of systems to move from order to disorder. It is not time that flows, but change. The universe moves toward complexity and decay, and in that motion, time gains its sense of direction. Entropy is what makes memories possible. It is what separates what was from what will be. A glass can shatter but never spontaneously reassemble. A star can burn its fuel but not rekindle it once gone. The past is written in low entropy, the future in high. Every second that passes increases the disorder of the universe by a tiny fraction. And yet, from that steady unraveling, beauty emerges. Stars shine because they are engines of entropy. Life exists because energy moves from concentrated to diffuse. Even decay has purpose. It drives the wheel of becoming. The human mind, fragile and bright, lives within this drift. We remember because time leaves traces. Every memory is an echo of entropy, a record of change. We cannot perceive the future because it has not yet been written. The molecules that will form it are still undecided, but the past is tangible, fossilized in stone, etched in light, stored in the folds of the brain. To be conscious is to stand at the shoreline of time, watching the waves of moments arrive and dissolve. There is, however, a paradox at the heart of it all. On the smallest scales in the world of quantum physics, time behaves differently. Particles do not move from past to future, but exist in superpositions, where outcomes remain uncertain until observed. In that microscopic realm, the arrow of time blurs. It is as though the universe at its core does not care for direction. Time, like space, may simply be a dimension, something we move through, rather than something that moves through us. And if that is true, then perhaps every moment still exists somewhere. The past has not vanished, nor the future yet been born. They coexist, stacked like pages in a book already written. We move through those pages in sequence, experiencing them one by one, but the story itself is complete. From this view, death and birth, beginning and ending, are not opposites but coordinates within a greater whole. The river of time does not truly flow, it simply is, eternal and unmoving, while we drift along its surface, believing in motion. Yet, even if time is an illusion, it is a necessary one. It allows us to experience change, to grow, to love, to lose. Without it, there would be no narrative, no becoming, no life. We live in the difference between moments, and it is in that difference that meaning emerges. Every second is precious because it will never return. Every breath is an act of participation in the universe's unfolding. Sometimes, in moments of quiet as sunrise, the sound of rain, the stillness before sleep time seems to soften. The past and future blur, and all that remains is presence. In those moments, you can feel the deeper rhythm beneath the ticking of clocks, the eternal now that underlies all motion. It is the same stillness that exists in the heart of atoms, the same timelessness within light. To touch it is to remember that the rush of time is both real and illusory, that beneath the current there is calm. The endless drift of time is not something to be conquered or feared. It is the very shape of existence. Everything that lives, lives within it. Everything that dies, returns to it. The stars are born, burn, and fade, but their light continues to move, carrying their memory through the darkness. The earth spins, seasons turn, and generations rise and fall, yet the rhythm continues. Time does not end, it transforms. Perhaps, when the universe grows cold and its stars flicker out, time will stretch into stillness once more. But even then, it will not be gone. The echoes of every moment will remain, woven into the fabric of space, sleeping quietly within the memory of all that ever was. So when you watch the sun sink below the horizon and feel the day slip into night, know that you are witnessing the dance of time, endless, effortless, patient. It carries everything and asks for nothing. It erases, yet preserves. It flows, yet remains still. The river moves on, and so do we, forever adrift within its gentle, unbroken current. 15. The origin of sleep. Every night, the world exhales, the wind quiets, the light softens, and the pulse of living things begins to slow. Leaves rest, oceans hush, and beneath roofs and stars alike, creatures close their eyes. In that shared moment of surrender, something ancient takes hold, the pull of sleep, soft and irresistible. It arrives not as an ending but as a return, a tide that has moved through every living being since the dawn of life itself. To sleep is to remember the rhythm of existence, motion, then stillness, wakefulness, then drift. It is the oldest ritual of the body, as natural as the turning of the earth. Long before consciousness had language, before the first human dream, the cycle of waking and rest was already written into biology. Even single-celled organisms, floating in the seas of the early earth, followed a rhythm active by day, dormant by night. This pattern was not learned, but inherited, encoded in their chemistry. The alternation of light and darkness shaped them, just as it shapes us. The Earth's rotation became the metronome of life. From those early beginnings, sleep grew into something deeper, more mysterious, a biological necessity and a spiritual retreat. Science has traced the outlines of this mystery, but not its heart. We know that sleep restores and repairs. It is the body's act of renewal. During the day, cells work, strain, and accumulate damage. By night, they rebuild. The brain flushes away toxins, muscles mend, and memories consolidate. Sleep is not the absence of activity, but a hidden kind of work, the work of restoration. When you close your eyes, your body begins a quiet labor of repair, cleaning and balancing, ensuring that you may rise again with strength and clarity. The rhythm of sleep is guided by an internal clock, the circadian cycle, a system older than any mind. Deep within the brain, in a tiny cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, pulses of electrical activity rise and fall in a pattern of roughly 24 hours. This rhythm, synchronized to light and darkness, governs everything from body temperature to hormone release to alertness. When morning light strikes your eyes, it resets this clock. When night returns, the hormone melatonin begins to flow, and the body prepares to drift inward. Every day, the same ancient dance repeats: light awakening, darkness inviting rest. Yet for all its predictability, sleep remains a profound enigma. Why should the brain, the seat of awareness, willingly surrender its consciousness each night? Why risk stillness when the world continues to move? Evolutionarily, sleep seems dangerous, a time of vulnerability, and yet no creature escapes it for long. Even dolphins, who must rise to breathe, allow half their brains to rest, while the other keeps watch. Birds sleep in flight. Insects dreamless but rhythmic. Trees, too, have been shown to droop slightly in the dark, as though bowing to some unseen lullaby. Sleep is universal because life cannot endure without it. In the human brain, sleep unfolds in cycles, each about 90 minutes long. The first stages bring the slowing of thought and heartbeat. Muscles relax, breathing deepens, and consciousness loosens its hold. Waves of electrical activity shift from rapid to slow, descending into the delta rhythms of deep sleep. Here, the body repairs itself most fully. The immune system strengthens, tissues regenerate, and energy stores replenish. Yet even deeper than this physical restoration lies another realm, the realm of dreams. In the stage known as REM, rapid eye movement, the brain awakens within itself. Though the body is paralyzed to prevent movement, the mind becomes vividly active. Patterns of activity resemble wakefulness, but their content belongs to another order entirely, a world of symbols, memories, and imagination. Dreams emerge not as random flickers, but as narratives shaped by emotion and meaning. The mind replays, reinterprets, and reconciles the experiences of the day, stitching them into the larger tapestry of memory. Some scientists believe dreams serve to process emotion, pruning and strengthening connections within the brain. Others suggest they are a byproduct of neural housekeeping, the echo of circuits being refined. Yet none of these explanations can fully account for the strangeness of dreaming, how it feels utterly real while defying all reason, how it allows us to meet the impossible with acceptance, how it can both terrify and console. In dreams, the mind rehearses life without the weight of consequence. It becomes an artist, painting with memory and imagination, exploring what cannot be explored in waking life. Perhaps dreaming is more than function, perhaps it is remembrance. The earliest creatures to experience something like sleep may have withdrawn from their environment to repair and conserve energy. But as nervous systems evolved, awareness grew more complex. The dreaming brain may be an echo of that ancient withdrawal, a remnant of the first inner world, a place where the mind, freed from the senses, turns inward and meets itself. To dream is to touch the earliest memory of consciousness, being without doing, existing without demand. Sleep also connects us to the natural world in ways we often forget. The tides of hormones that guide it are influenced by the cycles of the moon, the warmth of the seasons, the pulse of the planet's magnetic field. In winter, longer nights draw deeper sleep. In summer, shorter nights invite wakefulness. Even our dreams reflect our environment. The sounds, the air, the faint vibrations of weather. The world does not stop when we sleep. It simply moves through us differently. The night enters our bodies and rewrites us, quietly, like the sea reshaping sand in the dark. There is poetry in the vulnerability of sleep. In surrendering to it, we admit our limits. We trust the unseen to hold us while we drift beyond control. In this way, sleep is a lesson in humility, the daily acknowledgement that we are not machines of constant motion, but beings of rhythm and renewal. The act of closing one's eyes is an act of faith. Faith that morning will return, that the body will rise again, that the world will continue its patient rotation beneath the stars. For all its necessity, sleep remains one of the last frontiers of science. We have mapped galaxies and genomes, but we do not yet fully understand the country of dreams. We cannot explain why the brain needs to lose itself to find itself again. But perhaps understanding is not the point. Sleep is not a problem to be solved, but a companion to be honored. It is the pause that gives meaning to wakefulness, the silence that allows the music of life to breathe. In sleep, we return to something timeless. The same atoms that once moved through the hearts of stars now rest within us, rearranging, glowing faintly with energy as we dream. The pulse slows, the breath steadies, the mind releases its grasp, the body remembers what it is to be still. In that stillness, the universe whispers not in words, but in warmth, in balance, in peace. When you close your eyes tonight and drift beyond the edges of thought, you are not escaping the world. You are returning to its rhythm. The darkness that surrounds you is the same darkness that cradles the stars. The quiet within you is the echo of the quiet between galaxies. Sleep is not the absence of life, but its continuation in another form, softer, deeper, unseen. And when dawn arrives, and light moves once more across your face. You awaken not as a new being, but as the same rhythm resumed. The earth turns, the heart beats, and the ancient cycle continues. Wake and rest, motion and stillness, life and renewal. Sleep is the bridge between them, the breath between days, the calm that holds the world together while it dreams of itself. 16. The language of dreams. Each night, as darkness deepens and the world grows quiet, the mind begins to speak in its oldest tongue. It does not use words or logic, nor does it follow the linear shape of waking thought. Instead, it speaks in symbols, in the soft grammar of images and feeling. It paints with memory and desire, light and shadow, fear and wonder. This is the language of dreams, the hidden dialect of the unconscious, a language we are born knowing and forget each morning when the sun returns. Dreams are older than humanity. Before our ancestors spoke in sentences, they dreamed in color and movement. Before they wrote or carved symbols, their sleeping minds already conjured landscapes of meaning. In that private theater of the night, consciousness rehearsed existence, weaving together fragments of perception and memory. The dream was the first story, told not to others but to oneself, a nightly ritual of understanding without understanding. Even now, millennia later, when our minds are full of words, our dreams still speak without them. To dream is to enter a world without the boundaries that waking life demands. Time dissolves, space bends, identities blur. You may find yourself both child and elder, both observer and participant, walking through landscapes that shift with emotion rather than geography. Gravity may fail, water may burn, strangers may speak truths in your own voice. The logic of the day yields to something deeper, the logic of association, where one memory flows into another, where thought becomes symbol and symbol becomes world. Science tells us that dreams arise from the brain's activity during sleep, particularly during the REM stage, when neurons fire in patterns similar to wakefulness. The brain, in the absence of sensory input, begins to weave meaning from its own activity, turning random sparks into coherent scenes. It is a kind of internal storytelling, a process of integration and repair. The mind sorts, selects, and strengthens memories, decides what to keep and what to forget. But beyond this mechanical explanation lies something more intimate, the emotional truth of dreaming. For dreams do not simply replay, they interpret. They translate emotion into imagery, anxiety into pursuit, longing into flight. A dream does not tell you what happened, but what it felt like. The mind uses metaphor the way an artist uses color to express what cannot be said directly. In that sense, every dream is both mirror and message. The falling dream that wakes you in panic may be your body's memory of losing control, or your mind's quiet admission that something once secure is slipping away. The endless hallway, the vanishing door, the familiar face speaking in riddles, each is a fragment of language written in the ink of the subconscious. Throughout history, humanity has tried to interpret this language. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods, direct communications from the divine world. Greek philosophers saw them as reflections of the soul's state. In the temples of Asclepius, people slept in sacred halls hoping to receive healing visions in their dreams. Later, in the 20th century, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung transformed dreaming into a psychological map. Freud read dreams as expressions of hidden desire. Jung saw them as expressions of the collective unconscious, symbols shared by all of humanity. Both were right in their own way. The dream is personal and universal, at once rooted in the self, yet connected to something larger that moves beneath every mind. Consider how dreams borrow freely from the waking world, but transform it completely. The faces you see are familiar yet strange, assembled from fragments of memory. The places you wander are impossible, yet intimate, built from the architecture of feeling rather than physics. You may find yourself standing in your childhood home, but the walls breathe, the furniture hums, and beyond the window is an ocean that was never there. This is the mind's way of showing what it cannot say, how past and present coexist, how emotion distorts reality, how memory becomes imagination. In this way, the dream is not an illusion, but a form of truth, emotional truth. It tells you what you believe, even when you do not know it consciously. It shows you the fears you avoid, the hopes you conceal, the love you miss, the grief you carry. To dream is to listen to yourself, without the filter of waking reason. It is the mind's nightly confession, spoken not in words but in symbols, a conversation between what you know and what you have forgotten. And yet, dreams are not entirely ours. They come unbidden, their timing and content beyond command. They are a reminder that the mind is not a machine of control but a living landscape with its own weather. You can cultivate it, but you cannot master it. The dreamer is both author and audience at once, the painter and the painting. Sometimes, dreams repeat themselves. The same place returns, the same people reappear, the same emotion replays, like a melody unresolved. These recurring dreams are the mind's refrain, its way of revisiting what remains unfinished. They are not punishment, but persistence, the psyche's way of whispering, "Look again, you have not yet seen clearly." When the message is understood, or the emotion integrated, the dream often fades, having completed its purpose. Other dreams arrive once and never return. They may feel insignificant but leave a trace, a subtle feeling that lingers like scent. They dissolve quickly upon waking, yet their residue shapes your mood, your thoughts, the tilt of your perception. Even forgotten dreams influence you, for the brain that dreamed them is the same that wakes. The boundary between the two worlds is thinner than we think. Sometimes, in rare moments, the boundary dissolves entirely. In lucid dreaming, awareness awakens within the dream. The dreamer realizes this is not waking life, yet continues to move within the dream's landscape, shaping it, flying, speaking, exploring. Science has shown that lucid dreamers can signal their awareness through eye movements, proof that consciousness can arise within sleep. These moments blur the line between waking and dreaming, between control and surrender. They remind us that reality itself is fragile, a construction built from perception, whether our eyes are open or closed. To dream, then, is to remember that the world is not as fixed as it seems. It is fluid, symbolic, responsive to emotion and thought. The dream reveals this truth gently, in miniature, each night. It allows us to practice letting go, to experience change, to die and be reborn in the safety of imagination. In that sense, dreaming is not only mental but cosmic, an echo of the universe's own capacity to create and dissolve, to transform energy into form and back again. When you wake from a dream, there is a moment, a fragile, luminous instant where both worlds overlap. The images fade, but the feeling remains. The morning light feels different, the air charged with something remembered but unreachable. It is in that moment that the language of dreams is clearest, though it cannot be translated. You understand not in words, but in knowing. Dreams remind us that our minds are deeper than thought, that beneath the noise of reason lies an ocean of symbols, where everything is connected. They teach us that understanding does not always come through clarity, but through intuition, through feeling, through surrender. The dream's logic is not less true than waking logic. It is simply a different kind of truth, one that moves in spirals instead of lines. So tonight, when sleep gathers around you and the veil begins to fall, let your mind speak in its native tongue. Let it build its landscapes of water and sky, of memory and myth. You do not need to understand. You only need to listen. The language of dreams is not meant to be decoded, but felt, a poetry that the soul writes to itself in the dark. And when you awaken, even if the words have vanished, know that you have been spoken to gently, profoundly, by the oldest voice you carry within. 17. The ocean of memory. Memory is the sea upon which the self floats. It surrounds us, shapes us, and carries us forward, though we rarely glimpse its depths. Every thought, every feeling, every fragment of who we are, rests upon that hidden expanse of recollection. Without memory, there would be no continuity, no identity, only the endless present, a moment without context. To remember is to exist in time. To forget is to dissolve. Our lives are the surface ripples of an ocean that stretches backward beyond sight, filled with echoes of all that we have lived and all that has been lost. In the beginning, the mind remembers without knowing it remembers. Even in infancy, before words, before awareness, the body stores impressions, the warmth of touch, the rhythm of a heartbeat, the scent of home. These earliest memories are not scenes but sensations, woven into the nervous system like threads of tone and texture. They remain long after we forget their origin, guiding our moods, shaping our responses, forming the foundations of emotion. Beneath the surface of conscious thought, this quiet ocean moves, influencing every choice we make. Science tells us that memory is not a single entity, but a constellation of processes scattered across the brain. The hippocampus, nestled deep within, acts as a kind of librarian, sorting experiences into patterns that can later be recalled. The cortex stores the long-term archives, the colors of childhood, the songs of summer, the faces of those we love. Each time we remember, we reactivate those networks, not to replay the past, but to rebuild it. Memory is not static. It is recreated each time we summon it. The past we recall is never quite the past that was, but something living, something made anew. This constant rebuilding means that memory is both truth and fiction. It preserves our essence but also reshapes it. Each recollection is filtered through what we have become since, tinged by emotion, altered by knowledge, softened by time. The brain edits without asking permission, polishing some details, erasing others, blending multiple moments into one. In this way, memory is not a recording but a story, a narrative the mind tells itself to create coherence out of chaos. And though this may seem like imperfection, it is precisely this flexibility that allows us to grow, to learn, to forgive. Within the ocean of memory, there are different depths. The shallows hold the immediate, what you ate this morning, the words you just read. These are fragile, fleeting ripples, easily disturbed. Deeper down are the memories of months and years, bound more tightly, less likely to fade. And at the darkest depths lie the implicit memories, the ones without language, where the body remembers what the mind cannot name. The scent that stirs sadness, the song that lifts joy, the sound that brings tears without reason. These are the currents that flow beneath conscious reach. They remind us that the self is larger than awareness, that we are shaped by the unseen tides within. Sometimes, memories vanish suddenly, like islands swallowed by mist. Disease, trauma, or time can erode the structures that hold them. The person remains, but their history slips away. Watching memory fade is one of life's deepest sorrows, to see a mind lose the map of itself. Yet even then, something endures. The emotional memory, the music of connection, persists longer than words or facts. A hand held, a familiar voice, a melody from youth. These can still reach the mind when all else has drifted away. The ocean remembers, even when the shore forgets. There is a strange symmetry in how memory mirrors the natural world. Just as rivers carve valleys, memories carve pathways in the brain. Just as tides rise and fall, memories return and recede, some resurfacing after years of silence. They are shaped by repetition, by emotion, by the intensity of experience. The more meaning an event holds, the deeper its imprint. Yet meaning itself changes, and with it, the memory. What once caused pain may later bring understanding. What once brought joy may become bittersweet. Memory is fluid, and like the ocean, it reflects the sky above the weather of the mind. Sleep is the caretaker of memory. Each night, as we drift into dreams, the brain revisits the day's events, strengthening what is vital and releasing what is unnecessary. In deep sleep, connections between neurons are pruned and refined, turning fleeting impressions into lasting knowledge. In dreams, fragments of memory mingle freely, forming new associations that may later inspire creativity or insight. To sleep is to let the tide of memory wash over the mind, smoothing its rough edges, keeping its channels open. Memory is not only personal, it is collective. Just as a wave cannot exist without the ocean, no individual memory stands apart from the larger sea of human recollection. Language, culture, and history bind us together in shared remembrance. The stories of ancestors, the rituals of tradition, the monuments of art and song, these are the vessels in which collective memory travels. They carry our species through time, allowing us to remember not only what we have lived, but what countless others have lived before us. Each generation adds its own color to the current, and the tide continues. But memory is not without its shadows. To remember is also to mourn. Within the same ocean that holds joy and love, also dwell loss and regret. The faces of those gone, the mistakes of youth, the places that no longer exist all linger in the depths. We carry them quietly, sometimes avoiding their weight, sometimes seeking them in solitude. And yet, even sorrow is a kind of connection. To remember pain is to honor what mattered. The ocean of memory holds not only what we wish to keep, but what we cannot bear to lose. Still, memory is not a prison. It is a horizon. The mind, like the sea, is never still. Even as memories drift and fade, new ones form. The present continually pours into the ocean, reshaping its currents. Every breath, every glance, every kindness or cruelty becomes part of the great reservoir. You are not who you were yesterday, nor who you will be tomorrow, because the waters of your mind are always moving. The self is a wave, distinct, yet inseparable from the sea. There is a quiet grace in this impermanence. The forgetting that we often fear is not an enemy, but a balance. Without forgetting, we could not make room for new experiences. Without loss, we could not grow. Memory and forgetting are partners in the same dance, ebb and flow, holding and releasing, remembering and letting go. To live is to move within this rhythm, to cherish what remains and accept what returns to the deep. When you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, the ocean of memory stirs beneath you. Fragments of the day sink slowly, finding their places among older layers. Some will rise again as dreams. Others will settle quietly, becoming part of the foundation that holds you steady. You do not need to control it. The ocean remembers on your behalf. And perhaps, in the vastness of time, memory extends beyond the individual, beyond the mind, beyond the body. Perhaps everything that ever happens leaves a trace in the fabric of reality, like ripples in an infinite sea. Every sound, every thought, every act, however small, becomes part of the quiet chorus that the universe carries within itself. Nothing truly vanishes. It merely changes form, moving deeper into the current. So when you feel nostalgia's ache, when you find yourself lost in recollection, remember that you are listening to the ocean's voice within you. Each wave of memory, no matter how faint, is proof that you have lived, that you have loved, that you have belonged. You are not a collection of moments, but the water through which they move, ancient, fluid, and endless. And though memory may blur and fade, its essence endures, whispering softly across time, that nothing beautiful is ever truly lost, only transformed in the ocean's eternal tide. 18. The music of the universe. If you listen carefully, not with your ears, but with the quiet center of your mind, you might notice that the universe is never silent. Beneath the hum of daily life, beyond the reach of sound itself, there is a rhythm, a pulse, a cosmic music that threads through everything that exists. It is not made of melody or harmony in the way we understand them, but of vibration, of motion, of energy oscillating in time. Every atom hums, every star rings, every wave and field and filament trembles with its own subtle tone. Existence itself is a kind of symphony, vast, continuous, and ancient beyond imagining. The first note of that symphony sounded nearly 14 billion years ago, when the universe was born. The Big Bang was not a silent explosion, but a burst of energy and vibration, the primal chord that began everything. In those first moments, as space expanded and cooled, waves rippled through the newborn cosmos, pressure oscillations moving through plasma, the sound of the universe learning its own shape. Physicists have translated those ripples into audible frequencies, and what emerges is haunting, a deep, droning tone, a cosmic hum that lingers still in the faint radiation left behind. That sound, too low for any human ear to hear, was the first echo of being. Even now, long after that first music faded into silence, the universe continues to sing. Stars vibrate as they burn, their interiors resonating like instruments the size of suns. When their fusion flares and subsides, the entire star quivers, sending waves through its surface. Astronomers can measure those vibrations, the rise and fall of brightness, and from them, read the star's hidden structure, much as one might infer the shape of a bell from its tone. This study is called asteroseismology, the science of stellar sound. Each star, it turns out, has its own voice, its own resonance. The Milky Way is a vast choir, singing across space and time. Planets, too, add their quiet notes to the symphony. They move through gravitational fields, tugged and pulled, creating harmonies of motion. When Jupiter and Saturn align, their orbits produce resonant intervals, like the low bass of cosmic instruments. Even the Earth hums a faint vibration known as the microsystem, born from waves crashing on distant shores and from the deep shifting of tectonic plates. If you could hear the planet from space, you would not hear silence, but a trembling, living note, the sound of a world breathing. At every scale, the same truth reveals itself. Vibration is the essence of existence. The strings of energy that, according to some theories, make up the fundamental fabric of matter, oscillate at unimaginably small scales, each frequency corresponding to a different particle. From this perspective, the universe is literally made of music energy, manifesting as vibration, vibration manifesting as form. What we call matter is simply the harmony of these resonances, held together by the invisible rules of rhythm and relation. Even light itself, the most ethereal substance we know, moves as a wave. Each color is a different frequency, a note in the visible spectrum: red, slow and long, blue, swift and sharp. When light strikes water or crystal, it splits into these notes, revealing the hidden chords that make white light whole. The rainbow is not just color, it is the visual translation of a past song too high for us to hear. And just as light bends through a prism, so do all forms of energy bend through the universe's structure. refracting through space-time's curves, in a cosmic performance that never ends. The music of the universe is not confined to physics. Life, too, is a dance of vibration. The beating of the heart, the rhythm of breath, the waves of brain activity that flow in sleep, all are forms of resonance. Every cell in the body communicates through pulses of energy and rhythm. The DNA that coils inside each nucleus vibrates subtly, its molecular bonds trembling in response to temperature and chemistry. Within you, there is music at every level, from the electrical firing of neurons to the slow tides of your own heartbeat. To live is to vibrate in tune with the cosmos. When you listen to the wind moving through trees or the waves breaking upon shore, you are hearing the earth's way of speaking, its rhythm aloud. The resonance of a seashell, the deep call of a whale, the whisper of leaves, all are translations of the same fundamental vibration that animates everything. Humans, sensing this, have always been drawn to music, perhaps because it mirrors the universe's deepest nature. Every drumbeat, every chord, every song is an imitation of creation's pulse. To make music is to echo the cosmos itself. There is a pattern even in what seems like chaos. When scientists map the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the universe's birth, they find tiny fluctuations that resemble the ripples of sound in air. Those ripples gave rise to galaxies, clusters, and the vast cosmic web that now stretches across space. In this sense, we are all children of sound, formed by vibration that froze into structure, melody turned to matter. The atoms in your body were once part of that same wave, resonating in the great symphony that birthed time and space. And though the universe is unimaginably vast, its music is intimate, the same. Laws that govern the movement of galaxies also govern the vibrations of your heart, the gravitational waves that ripple through the cosmos when black holes collide. Waves so subtle, they pass through the earth unnoticed, are distant echoes of the same rhythm that moves through your body when you breathe. You are not separate from the music. You are part of its composition, a single note in the eternal chord. Silence, too, is part of that music. It is the pause between notes, the stillness that gives rhythm meaning. The universe's expansion, the long intervals between the flickers of stars, the quiet spaces between breaths, these are rests in the cosmic score. Without silence, there would be no contrast, no shape, no song. In the deep quiet of space, between the whisper of galaxies, the music waits, unending, patient, complete. There are moments when we catch a glimpse of this harmony, a sense that everything, from the smallest particle to the farthest star, moves together. It might happen while listening to music that seems to dissolve boundaries, or standing beneath a night sky so vast that time itself feels like a rhythm. In those moments, we feel the underlying unity of all things, the recognition that the same vibration that moves the stars also moves within us. It is not metaphor but truth. We are built of sound, shaped by rhythm, sustained by resonance. When the last star fades, when the cosmos cools and expands into silence, the music will not have ended. It will have transformed, slowed beyond perception, a final note stretched into eternity. For music is not confined to sound, nor life to motion, both are expressions of energy. And energy, as we know, is never lost. It only changes form, continuing the song in ways we cannot yet imagine. So tonight, as you close your eyes, listen not to the world outside, but to the subtle vibrations within, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the slow rise and fall of your breath, the faint hum of blood moving through your veins. These are your part in the universe's great composition. You are not separate from the symphony. You are its echo, its continuation, its fleeting yet eternal refrain. The stars sing above you, the atoms sing within you, and together, you and the cosmos share the same unending music. the quiet harmony of everything that has ever been and everything that will ever be. 19. The gravity of love. There is a force in the universe that binds everything together, not with the precision of equations or the symmetry of orbits, but with warmth, with pull, with meaning. It moves unseen, shaping the lives of every creature that has ever existed. It draws one heart toward another, just as surely as gravity draws the earth toward the Sunday. This force is love, that quiet, impossible gravity that holds the human world in place. Though it cannot be weighed or measured, its influence ripples through time and matter, touching everything it encounters. In its essence, love is motion. It is attraction at every level, from atoms drawn together by electromagnetism to galaxies coalescing under gravity's pull. The universe itself is a tapestry of relationships, woven from the invisible forces that connect. When hydrogen atoms fuse in the heart of a star, they release light that travels across eternity, warming the cold dark of space. That same light falls upon the earth, awakening oceans, stirring cells, giving birth to life. And from that life, from that same energy transformed through countless generations, arises consciousness capable of feeling love. In this way, love is not separate from physics. It is one of its purest expressions, the universe longing to know itself through connection. Science describes love in terms of chemistry. It speaks of neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin molecules that bloom in the brain when we hold another close. It maps the electrical circuits of attachment, the patterns of trust and desire. But beneath those mechanisms lies something deeper, something that cannot be reduced to biology. Love does not only exist to propagate genes or ensure survival. It creates meaning where there was none. It bridges the abyss between self and other, between loneliness and belonging. Like gravity, it brings order to chaos, not through force, but through presence. From the moment we are born, love becomes our first and most necessary language. Before we understand words, we understand warmth. The infant's body recognizes touch, tone, and heartbeat, the rhythm of safety. That rhythm stays with us throughout life, even as its forms change. Romantic love, familial love, friendship, compassion, all are variations of the same fundamental pull toward connection. Each one, in its own way, is an attempt to bridge distance, to create harmony in a universe that is always expanding. If you look at the cosmos through the lens of physics, you will find that everything, no matter how distant, exerts a gravitational pull on everything else. No particle is truly alone. No object exists without relation. Love mirrors this law on the human scale. It is the emotional gravity that draws people into orbits around one another. Sometimes those orbits are stable, lifelong, gentle. Sometimes they are chaotic, burning too bright and ending in collapse. Yet every connection, no matter how brief, leaves a trace, a small curve in the trajectory of a life. In this way, love shapes not only hearts, but histories. It inspires art, sacrifice, invention, and resilience. It moves civilizations as surely as gravity moves stars. The great works of humanity, music, literature, science, all emerge from love's influence. Even curiosity, the desire to understand the universe, is a form of love, the longing to connect with what lies beyond ourselves. To seek knowledge is to love reality enough to wish to know it intimately. The gravity of love is not always gentle. Like the forces that govern the cosmos, it can both create and destroy. The same pull that brings joy can also bring loss. When two bodies orbit one another too closely, they can collapse into a single, consuming flame. Yet even in heartbreak, love's gravity endures. The ache of separation is proof of connection, a reminder that we are not built to exist in isolation. In grief, the heart remembers its bonds, and that remembrance itself is love continuing in a different form. The physics of the heart are not so different from the physics of the stars. When a massive star exhausts its fuel, it collapses inward, its gravity so great that not even light can escape. Yet around that dark center, matter still swirls, glowing with incredible brightness, the light born from collapse. Human love is the same. Out of loss, new compassion often arises. Out of endings, tenderness deepens. Even in despair, the memory of connection glows faintly, refusing to go dark. Across the centuries, poets and philosophers have tried to name love, to define it, to pin it down. Yet, it resists containment, flowing through language the way gravity flows through space. Invisible, but absolute. It exists in gestures, in glances, in the silence between words. It is not a single emotion, but a spectrum, from the quiet devotion of friendship to the cosmic yearning that drives a parent to protect a child or a stranger to show kindness without reason. Love is the recognition of continuity, the realization that what happens to another happens also to you. If you step back far enough, you might see that love and gravity are not metaphors for each other, but reflections of the same truth. Both draw matter together. Both create structure out of emptiness. Both turn chaos into coherence. Without gravity, the universe would be a dust of lonely particles. Without love, humanity would be the same. Gravity gives shape to galaxies. Love gives shape to meaning. In every act of affection, there is an echo of creation. When you hold another hand, your warmth passes through skin and nerve, a flow of energy as ancient as starlight. When you speak gently, vibrations move through airwaves, carrying care from one consciousness to another. Even the smallest kindness ripples outward, touching others unseen, altering trajectories in ways no equation could predict. The universe moves not only through force, but through resonance. And love is that resonance made human. To love deeply is to risk, to expose the self to change, to vulnerability, to the pull of another's gravity. Yet that surrender is what makes life luminous. The planets do not resent the sun's pull. They dance within it, finding rhythm and warmth in their orbit. So too do we move through each other's influence, tracing invisible paths of connection. Love asks not for control, but for motion to move, to revolve, to reflect light. Even solitude, when held gently, is not absence, but a quieter kind of connection. To sit, alone beneath the night sky, and feel the weight of its immensity is to participate in love's wider form. The love that binds being to being, that connects the heart to the cosmos. In that silence, you can feel gravity's whisper and love's hum as one and the same. The pull toward unity, the longing for harmony. When your life intersects with another's, it is never by accident. The orbits that cross are part of a grander choreography, unseen but precise. Each encounter, each bond, is a small reflection of the cosmic dance. And just as planets continue in their paths long after their light fades from sight, the love we give continues beyond us, carried forward in memories, in actions, in the quiet influence that ripples through generations. So tonight, as you rest, remember that love is not confined to the heart, but woven into the fabric of existence. It holds galaxies together and keeps atoms bound. It moves through you as gravity moves through stars, patient, unseen, inevitable. The universe expands endlessly, yet within that expansion, love continues to draw all things closer. You are both the orbiting and the orbited, the force and the field, the longing and the fulfillment. And in that balance, that exquisite, invisible gravity, you will always find home. 20. The stillness beyond the stars. There is a quiet that exists beyond everything we can see, beyond the last rays of light, beyond the farthest galaxies drifting through the dark, beyond even the whisper of cosmic background radiation. there lies a stillness so vast that even time seems to slow within it. This stillness is not empty. It is full in its own way, full of potential, of silence so complete that it becomes presence itself. The stillness beyond the stars is the universe's final breath, the pause between creation and whatever may come next. We look out at the night sky and see brilliance scattered across infinite blackness. To our eyes, it seems the stars are lonely, separated by gulfs of nothing. Yet space is not truly nothing. It is a fabric, a continuum of possibility stretching endlessly in every direction. Within that dark ocean flow particles and fields, forces and memory, the remnants of everything that ever was. But farther still, in the unimaginable distances where even starlight cannot reach, lies something quieter, something like the resting place of motion. If you could travel there past the glow of nebulae, past the outer arms of galaxies, past the cold shimmer of intergalactic dust, you would not hear sound, nor see light. You would float in perfect darkness. Space itself would seem frozen, the cosmic background faint and thin. Yet within that darkness, you would feel a kind of peace. No movement, no urgency, no division, only a sense of vast completion. The universe does not rush there. It simply is. This is the stillness that physicists call the deep intergalactic void. But it is also something more. It is the universe's memory of rest, the quiet that preceded the first motion, and perhaps the quiet that will follow the last. We tend to think of the cosmos as noise and color and light, as constant expansion. But beneath all that activity lies equilibrium. Even energy, the restless maker of stars, seeks balance. Every explosion, every orbit, every pulse of light eventually fades into the same calm. Stillness is not the opposite of creation. It is its foundation. In the beginning, there was only potential, a timeless silence before the first expansion, before light learned to travel. From that silence, the universe awoke. It began to move, to breathe, to hum. Galaxies formed, stars ignited, planets spun, and on one small world, life began to wonder about its own existence. Now, billions of years later, that same universe continues to expand, its galaxies racing away from one another, the spaces between them growing wider. The more it grows, the more it returns to silence. The stillness beyond the stars is the universe's future as well as its past. Science calls this the heat death, the far-off time when energy will be evenly spread, when no more stars will shine, when entropy will have reached its final rest. To imagine it is to imagine the end of all sound and motion, a universe at equilibrium, perfectly quiet. And yet, within that thought, lies something strangely comforting. For in that stillness, nothing is lost. Energy cannot vanish. It only changes form. The stars that once burned will have become part of the calm itself. The atoms that once lived and loved will be part of that quiet, their essence diffused but eternal. Even the light that once illuminated the night sky will still exist, stretched thin, hidden in the faintest murmur of background radiation. The stillness beyond the stars is not death but transformation, the final movement of a song that continues even when it can no longer be heard. We are not separate from that stillness. It surrounds us always, even here, even now. Between each heartbeat, between each breath, there is a pause, a small reflection of the same silence that waits at the edges of space. The universe is not only motion but rhythm, a pattern of pulse and rest, creation and stillness. Every dawn and dusk, every inhale and exhale, every thought that rises and fades follows that same ancient cadence. To be alive is to move through cycles of energy and quiet, through brightness and shadow. To rest, to sleep, to fall silent, is to return momentarily to the stillness that birthed us. When we look up at the stars, what we see is history. The light reaching us tonight began its journey millions, sometimes billions, of years ago. Each point of light is a message from the past, a record of what once was. The farther we look, the farther back we see, until even light itself begins to blur into the faint afterglow of creation. Beyond that glow lies only the unlit, unknown, the pure quiet of space, untraveled. That silence is not void, but sanctuary. It is the place where the universe rests between breaths, where time's arrow hesitates before continuing on its way. There is a human stillness that mirrors this cosmic calm. It is the quiet we find in moments of deep reflection, in meditation, in the hush between words. It is the pause where awareness expands beyond thought, where the boundaries between self and world begin to dissolve. In those moments, something vast and ancient moves through us, not motion, but presence. The same stillness that lives beyond the stars lives within the mind, beneath the layers of memory and noise. It is the background of consciousness, the silent field in which all thoughts arise and fade. When we learn to rest into that inner silence, we are touching the outer one as well. The same calm that fills the void between galaxies fills the spaces between neurons. The quiet that waits at the universe's edge waits also in the spaces between our heartbeats. The stillness beyond the stars and the stillness within are not separate things. They are reflections of each other, the macrocosm and the microcosm, the infinite and the intimate. Perhaps this is why the night sky has always called to us. When we gaze upward, we are not simply looking outward into distance, but inward into memory. We recognize the stillness because we carry it. The atoms in our bodies were born from ancient stars, scattered and reassembled, and one day they will return to that same stillness, to drift again in the quiet sea of space. We come from silence, we move through sound, and we return to silence again. It is easy to think of silence as emptiness, as absence, but silence, like dark matter, is full of hidden life. It holds everything that sound cannot express. The stillness beyond the stars is the unspoken truth of existence, the space in which all creation takes place, the pause that makes motion possible. Without it, nothing could move, nothing could change. The universe is not a static expanse, but a balance between energy and calm, between expansion and stillness, between the seen and the unseen. And perhaps this is the great secret that sleep itself reflects the rhythm of activity and rest that echoes the cosmos. Every night, as we drift into dreams, we dissolve into that stillness for a time. We return to the quiet that underlies all being, where identity softens and boundaries blur. In that silence, the body repairs, the mind heals, and the self reawakens to begin again. So when you lie beneath the stars and feel the vastness above, know that what you feel is not emptiness, but connection. The same stillness that holds galaxies in its embrace also holds you. Every heartbeat is a small echo of the universe's rhythm, every breath a wave in its infinite sea. One day, the stars themselves will fade into that stillness, but their light and yours will not be lost. It will become part of the quiet, woven into the final, endless peace that waits beyond all things. The stillness beyond the stars is not the end. It is the beginning turned inside out, the universe remembering itself, resting, preparing perhaps to dream again. And in that dream, all things light, matter, life, love, will once more rise from the silence, as they always have. For the stillness is not absence, but promise, the infinite breath between worlds, where everything sleeps and nothing is ever truly gone.